Sideline now as we check in with Mike Neighbors for the first time in your Window World Sideline Report. Mike.
Thank you very much, Joel. You know, the NFL schedule maker's handing out quite an assist to first-year Saint Jarvis Byrd. His first ever game as a Saint right here in his hometown of St. Louis. Now, he won't be playing tonight, still working his way back from back surgery, but he remembers his last game here inside the Dome. You go back 10 years ago, he won a state championship for Clayton High School as a quarterback and also played defense, forcing turnovers and the game-deciding hit in overtime. Now, the Saints are hoping he brings up their play and their defense to a championship caliber. For more on the Saints, let's go over to John DeShazier.
Thanks, Mike. One of the key position battles in training camp this year is at center. Jonathan Goodwin against Ken Lolito. Goody, the 13-year veteran, probably has the inside track right now. However, the Saints are going to be in great shape either way because whoever doesn't win that battle, he'll back up at center. He also can back up at either guard position. Quality depth is one of the things the Saints are looking for. Joel?
All right, JD, thank you. Good to have Mike Neighbors and John DeShazier down to the sideline. Trevera's Cadet is going to be the single back for the Louisiana Cat opening kickoff. My wife actually went to Clayton High School here in St. Louis, but Jarvis graduated a couple of years ahead of her.
A few years ahead.
Just a few years.
Wow. You're doing well for yourself, Joel.
So there is a local angle. A lot of us in this booth, Sean Kelly, know this town very well. Greg the Leg, they call him. Greg Zerline kicking it away, and we are happy to have you with us on CST for Saints preseason football. On the run, Cadet from the 1. Looking for a lane, barely back close to the 20 as he gets it out to the 18-yard line. As we mentioned, Drew Brees is not going to be playing tonight. Chase Reynolds in on that stop. Instead, it is going to be Luke McCowan in his 11th year out of Louisiana Tech. Free agent from Atlanta last year. And let's face it, no knock to Luke McCowan, no knock to Ryan Griffin, but hopefully they don't see the field during the regular season.
This is very true, Joel. And keep an eye on the right hand of Luke McCowan. It's taped there at the smallest finger. We'll watch how he reacts to it tonight.
First carry of the game and an efficient one for Mark Ingram, sliding off the left side for about 6 yards. Saints offense all brought to you by Valero as Ingram gets the start. Pierre Thomas not suited up tonight. Austin Johnson is the fullback with Colston Stills and Jimmy Graham. And then up front, Armstead, Galamet, along with Goodwin, Jones, and Zach Streif with a new 5-year contract and a well-deserved one.
In my opinion, he was one of the best right tackles in the league last year. And not only did he play well, but he also self-appointed himself to a new role with the team as press coordinator, so it seems.
A little slant and the completion. Guess who? Jimmy Graham. Rams defense also brought to you by Valero. And you could say this is the best front four in football on the defensive side. Long, Langford, Brockers, Quinn. A lot of first-round picks in the front seven. Ogletree, Laurinaitis, and a former Saint, Jolan Dunbar. And then Johnson, McLeod, McDonald, and Jenkins. If there's a deficiency, it's in their backfield, their defensive backfield. Good movement and a good roll to find Marcus Colston by McCown. Short yardage, about 3. But we were talking about extension. That front four of the Rams defense is really sound.
It's impressive. This is a great initial test to get the year started. You're not going to find a better group, in my opinion, across the board. Not to mention they added the rookie and Aaron Donald, who's got drummed up already a lot of excitement. So a good test for the Saints early.
On a 2nd and 7. Ingram, he has the lane and he's got a first down. Good stiff arm all the way past the midfield stripe. And this is a big year to say the least for Mark Ingram.
Oh, it's huge for him. But not only, if you look who's blocking at the edge, that's Jimmy Graham. Not only can he catch, but he's holding off the corner right there to spring Mark Ingram.
And Jimmy's been getting a lot of flack about his blocking. He said earlier this week some of that blocking problem has been his health. Remember, plantar fasciitis plagued this season last year. Now fully healthy, he says, I'm much stronger, especially up top.
1st and 10 from the 47 after the good block. And Ingram, they tried to get him around the pads, ran right through the arm tackle. Boy, impressive. From their own 18 all the way to the 41 as he's put down by Alec Ogletree.
That's 3 successful run plays over the left side. Not to mention, left tackle was a major issue. Mark Ingram gets a penetration. He runs right through that arm tackle to get the big yardage. But last season was an issue at left tackle. Now, it's nothing but confidence. Teron Armstead has proven himself to be not only worthy of a starting role, but the confidence of the entire organization.
They're going to the same side with Jimmy Graham on that side. It doesn't work, though, as they pull down Traveris Cadet in the backfield for a loss of about 5-6 yards. And it was Eugene Sims on the stop.
Stinch, it's interesting you mentioned Teron Armstead, and ironically, we're back in this building in St. Louis where the Charles Brown spot at left tackle ended in this building last year in that loss to the Rams. That's when Armstead took over.
I think that just gave Armstead enough time throughout the season to develop. And coming out of Arkansas Pine Bluff, you're obviously the competition is much stiffer in the NFL, but with his raw athletic ability, he's done nothing but work with assistant offensive line coach.
Whoa, picked off. Well timed by the defensive end, Chris Long, who saw it all the way on 3rd and 11. So Chris Long, the son of Hall of Famer Howie Long, with a pick of McCowan, and plus territory for the Rams.
Chris Long, you look, he reads the play, doesn't move. It's a quick screen to Brandon Cooks, guy who's drummed up a lot of excitement early on in this training camp. Chris Long wasn't buying any of it. Jumps up, interception.
We talked about the experience and the depth now they have on their defensive front. Long in his 7th year out of Virginia, another first-round pick of the Rams. In fact, he was 2nd overall in 2008. Rams are not going with Bradford, and it's Zach Stacy darting up the middle for good yardage, about 6, almost 7. Instead, the quarterback starting is Sean Hill in his 13th year out of Maryland at 6'3", 220.
He's got more stickers on his luggage, Joel, than any other player, it seems, in the league. Hill's been everywhere.
3 seasons with the Niners, last 4 with Detroit. A 34-year-old from Parsons, Kansas. And who's going to be the starting tailback for the Rams? Well, it looks like a busted play. And it's going to be a first down run. A good ad-lib by Hill because it looked like his running back went the wrong way. Our Rams offense all brought to you by Valero, Stacy, Britt Austin, Jared Cook, and Lance Kendricks at the skill spots. Offensive line, Jake Long, a free agent last year that was hurt and hampered by that. Robinson, Wells, Saffold, and Barksdale. Greg Robinson, the 2nd overall pick for the Rams in the draft this year. And a young man that was taken out of Auburn, an All-American. And eventually he will probably be their left tackle. Well, they got him at guard just to get him into the starting lineup. From the 34, a first down. Weaving his way off tackle with a holding call potentially coming up, thrown by the referees. It'll be down to the 30, but let's see if it's brought back.
Holding, number 88, offense. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Carl Cheffers is our referee tonight. So Lance Kendricks, the tight end out of Wisconsin. Well, the guilty party on the hold, trying to create a seal on that right side. And we'll take it back to the 44. We'll set the defensive unit in just a moment for you for the Saints. So an early turnover. And let's see how the Saints respond to adversity early in this game. Defensive unit that was 4th overall in the NFL last year. After they were dead last the year before. And going low and trying to hide for about 3, almost 4. Zach Stacy once again. Saints starting 11 on the defensive side, brought to you by Valero in the 3-4. Hicks, Bunkley, and Cam Jordan off that career best season. Gillette, Hawthorne, Lofton. And what a year it was for Paris Harrelson as well after the Butler injury last season. Corners, Robinson and Lewis with Bush and Kenny Vaccaro. And boy, guys, everybody says, and Sean, you were there, that Kenny Vaccaro looks like about a 10-year vet in his second season.
He acts much differently. You know, last year you almost had to tone him down at times, especially early in the camp. He knows how to act now and hasn't lost that intensity.
Good grab, coming back for it, and it was thrown behind him. The tight end picks it up. So Jared Cook has a 1st and 10 inside the 20 on a pass well behind him. Nice adjustment by the tight end.
That's David Hawthorne on the coverage. Jared Cook's one of the better tight ends emerging in the NFL. Well-placed ball right between the safety and the linebacker. Had a little separation right there.
Gain of 24 for the first down. And now the Rams are in the Slap Ya Mama Cajun seasoning red zone. From the 17. Stacy just powers his way off the right side for a yard or two.
Lofton's movement, Joel, has been so good laterally in camp. And mentally now in the second year in Rob Ryan's system, he's the quarterback of that defense. Lofton is the brain power with smart safeties, especially when we see Jairus Byrd finally play. That's going to be a very mentally sound defense when we get to the regular season.
Curtis Lofton in his 7th year now out of Oklahoma. And his 3rd year, fortunately, with the Saints, coming over in 2012 as a free agent from Atlanta. It'll be 2nd and long. Ton of time in it. A blown assignment out of the flat. Touchdown St. Louis as they swing it out to their tight end, Corey Harkey.
Obvious busted assignment right here. There's not a defender within 20 yards when he catches this ball. Nothing's more frustrating for a coordinator than to see a busted play end up in a touchdown.
He took the 2 steps back, looking as if he was going to help the left tackle block Stinch, and then released late.
It'll be a 33-yard extra point try, and I want to talk to you guys about this a little bit later. Greg Zuerlein doesn't like it. Last year, regular extra points, 99.6% of the time they were good. Between the 20 and 30 as Zuerlein gets into it. And no problem for him that time. All place kickers in the NFL between the 30 and 40 actually were at 90%. Didn't bother Zuerlein, and the Rams capitalized on the turnover with 7 early points. Early score for the Rams on top of the Saints in preseason game number 1. And welcome back to St. Louis. I want to remind you to join us. It'd be good to be at the Dome next week. And next Friday night, Saints at the Dome up against the Tennessee Titans. Our live coverage on CST starts at 6:30 Central. Saints tonight, followed by the kickoff. And don't forget, we've got live post-game coverage from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in the Louisiana Cat Studio at the conclusion of the game. CST, your regional sports network home for your New Orleans Saints. Our Rouse's scoring drive didn't take long, 47 yards, 6 plays, 4 runs, 2 passes. Zuerlein out of the end zone. And it's going to be a touchback, so a weapon like the Saints have in Thomas Morstead, Greg Zuerlein of the Rams. Let's see what the Saints do when we come back on their second offensive series. Saints get it back, an early deficit, and welcome back to St. Louis. Closed captioning for tonight's game, all provided by Louisiana Cat. Joel Myers upstairs along with John Stinchcomb, Sean Kelly, Mike Neighbors, John DeShazer downstairs. And Stinch, we were talking about it while we were away, your approach, because it wasn't that long ago you were in the preseason, your approach to the preseason games.
Well, it's all about pluses and minuses. Each man's out there trying to prove to their coach that they're worthy of making this roster and worthy of getting the ball for those that it applies to. And to do that, you have to perform well. It's less about the score and more about how you perform on an individual level. That obviously changed when you get mid-season. It's much more of a team approach and what you can do. Benjamin
Watson, a little dump off at the tight end and a first down. Our keys all brought to you by Murphy Cadillac. You could expect the very best. Keys coming in.
Well, so far it's the exact opposite of what we're seeing. You got to be efficient, which means no turnovers. Being able to move the ball down the field, execute the plays that are called. On defense, play fast and create turnovers. Really the same formula that St. Louis has applied so far in this first quarter.
Spinning around, it's Kyrie Robinson's.
Joel and Cam, Robinson, and this is probably not realistic, but he looks leaner. He's been quicker in camp. And this is a guy that kind of exploded onto the scene last year in the preseason. Made the roster basically by what he was able to do in the 4 preseason contests.
Led the NFL last preseason in rushing, as John mentions, and that's how he accounted for his spot on the roster. Little delay action, a nice sell, and you said he lost some weight. He looked pretty quick on that play, yeah. Kyrie Robinson.
Nice read at the second level by Kyrie. He seems to be a guy, it seems to be the same type guy New Orleans constantly finds. Undrafted guy from a smaller school who can play football. Chris Ivory is another running back who comes to mind who runs hard, runs with power, reads, blocks well. Great run for Kyrie.
Want to get back to your thought on undrafted. What they've done. Little screen, nice delay. And out in the flat, look out. It's Cadet with another first down. Now, the Saints, if you joined us a little bit late, the Saints moved the ball on the first possession. They turned it over. That was the only problem, and the Rams capitalized. Once again, they're moving it.
Another delay screen. Nice sell by Armstead. You got guards out in front. Great job by Cadet reading his blocks. You see Lolito right there finishing one of the defenders from the Rams. Now, Lolito's a big man. He's going to be a starter. He's going to be a starter. It's a matter of when and where for the Saints. It's not a matter of if.
At guard or at center, you know, he's a converted guard at least at this point.
The guy that wasn't drafted tripped up Colston on the route, and you can see him falling down. Just tangled up with the feet of the defensive back. You know, you were talking about undrafted players like Kyrie Robinson. Get back to that thought.
Well, you have to give credit to Ryan Pace and the entire personnel staff with the New Orleans Saints for finding guys, whether free agents, smaller school guys that have flown under the radar, and they bring them in. You develop them part of the program. Junior Gallette's another guy that has become a big-time producer for the Saints, and it's from smaller, more or lesser-known entities.
Jimmy Graham trying to make a play out in the flat.
And Joel, if you just think back to last year, 6 undrafted free agents made the opening day roster. Griffin was cut, and then when he was promoted to the active roster later in the regular season, then it became 7, and you add that to the 5 draft choices. That may have been the highest yet in the Peyton era.
Well, last season, 18 of the Saints' 53 that made the roster came into the league undrafted. We talked about Gillette, Robinson, Pierre Thomas 8 years ago, Hawthorne, Foster, Lolito. You just were talking about the center, a big man over the middle, Colston. He's got the first down. It's down to the 26-yard line. Little darts are looking pretty good from the count right now.
Throwing with no problem. Earlier in the week, I talked about his right hand and that lower finger, the little finger, was certainly bothering him, but he said he shook it off and he's feeling fine. The tape's just there to help for a little support. You're right, Joel. He's been accurate here on this drive.
We were talking about, while we were away, the screen pass, or tried to get it out in the flag. And how it's got to be sold, especially by the offensive line, not just the quarterback. And now McCown in trouble. He eludes the pressure, effectively thrown away. He will. Well, that saved about 8-10 yards.
Smart play.
Savvy veteran. So far, who's he thrown it to? Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston. And when he's under pressure, what do? Let's live for another day. We've got more plays in the playbook. You got pressure, nobody's open, throw it away.
And especially on first down, always know where you're at. And that's exactly the situation. 2nd and 10. The drive started back at the 20. Let's go to the 9th play. 4 first downs covering it down to the 26. Watson sets up. Man, a little cutback action. Good move again. Kyrie Robinson. So Kyrie Robinson, and you mentioned Mickey Loomis and his staff. And boy, assessing talent and bringing in guys. Let's face it, Marcus Colston was a 7th-round pick.
No question.
When he came into the league.
And now he's the all-time leading receiver in Saints history.
Yes.
And, you know, what a difference for Colston, Stitch, from a year ago. Remember, we didn't see him in a preseason game till the 4th one against Miami. He's been full go since day 1 of this training camp.
He's got to be one of the most excited guys. 1, to be healthy, but 2, not to be in the more brutal conditions of camp.
And now Brandon Cooks wide left here for the Saints, Joel.
In for the first time tonight, the rookie first-round pick out of Oregon State. The reception, Nick Toon putting it away. Can't get the first down. It'll be 4th and about 3. That's what Marcus Joyner was making the play out of the secondary.
That's possibly a face mask at the end of that.
No flag.
Well, one thing that Joyner won't be happy about in the film room is how his pad level is so high on a big receiver like Nick Toon. He won't get away with that more than not, shall we say.
Shane Graham tries to get the Saints on the board in his 14th year out of Virginia Tech. It'll be a 37-yard attempt. And points for the first time in the preseason for the Saints. So Shane Graham looking efficient at the Greenbrier, and it continues out of the hold of Ryan Griffin as we've got a 4-point game under the dome in St. Louis. 37-yard field goal by Shane Graham, and after 2 drives, Saints get on the board, trailing 7-3. And welcome back to St. Louis. We're downstairs again with your Window World Sideline Report and Mike Neighbors. Mike.
Thank you very much, Joel. You know, there are a few certainties in life, but one of them is Drew Brees on the practice field. Now, he may miss a practice every now and then, but it's rare for him to miss an entire week of practice. So this week, the Saints weren't used to seeing it. Ryan Griffin said it was weird. Jimmy Graham said it was the first time in his Saints career that he caught a touchdown pass from somebody other than number 9 when he caught one from Griffin. Everybody was lamenting the loss of number 9 except maybe one Keenan Lewis. He said he could deserve a break from number 9. He's tired of fighting him each and every day. He said, you know what? It's okay if he's gone for a little while as long as he's back when the real stuff starts. Back up you guys.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Graham with a deep kickoff. Chris Gibbons will bring it out. About 5-6 yards into the end zone.
Fans may say, Joel, where's Morstead?
Right.
We already know what Morstead can do. He can kick it out of the back of the end zone.
Another time out of the field. Inside the 20 it'll be for the Rams when we come back to St. Louis as they get it for a second time. Forest Park in St. Louis, and what an in-city park it is. Magnificent. Largest in-city park in America besides Central Park. Our conditions inside and outside the Edward Jones Dome, all brought to you by Rouse's. So outside they say it's 76. It's toasty outside, believe me. The numbers lie. 72 inside.
Not as good as West Virginia. The Greenbrier's been fantastic.
What Drew Brees had to say when he got down to the ground with Pierre Thomas, he goes, you believe this? 55, 60 degrees on the grass.
He said the grass is cool. At home, it's hot when we stretch.
Look out. And all kinds of contact down the sideline as Sean Hill in his second series trying to air it out. The Rouse's scoring drive just before he broke away with Shane Graham finishing it off. A 37-yard field goal. 11 snaps. They really look efficient offensively early despite that turnover. And 61 yards covering just about 5 minutes. So 3:16 left in the opening 15 minutes of the preseason. Offensive line, definitely a Louisiana influence, don't forget. Greg Robinson, the left guard, second overall out of Thibodeau. Barksdale out of LSU, the right tackle. And Tommy Cooper never stops working. And look out. It'll be Bunkley, the nose tackle. A slight delay before he got there. Yeah, Bunkley with the first sack of the preseason.
Right up the middle, you see it. It's a turn protection from the St. Louis Rams offensive line. They leave Bunkley unattended with no blockers. That's a good situation for any D lineman.
You know, Bunkley, it's interesting. I talked to Dan Dalrymple, the strength coach for the Saints. He said it's interesting. Bunkley in the weight room is less than average. But on the field, he's one of the strongest players he's got. On the field strength definitely dwarfs what he's able to do in the weight room, which doesn't seem to make sense, but you'll take it.
On third and long. We'll try the delay with Stacy. Good yardage, but not enough for the first down on third and long. Bush making the stop in the secondary.
I'll say this about Bunkley. He passes the eye test. He's rocked up, looks like a rhinoceros, if you will. We had to push on him from time to time, and he doesn't move easily.
Well, that's his nickname, Rhino. We'll talk more about nicknames later, but that's his nickname amongst the Saints defenders.
All right, I'm looking forward to this because Brandon Cooks is back deep for the punt for Johnny Hecker. Hecker with a 44.2 net average. Now, he's going to try to really sky this one to make sure his group gets back there. But Brandon Cooks.
This is a star in the making, Joel. He's the real deal.
Yeah, the home run threat that you look for. Trying to make a miss, but ran out of racing room on the sideline. He's going up against one of the best punters in the NFL. We're spoiled by Thomas Morstead. Well, they've got a very good one, and he went to the Pro Bowl last year, and that's Hecker for St. Louis. Saints get it back at their own 25-yard line. Our Window World sideline report as we head downstairs. We're joined now by John DeShazer. John?
Thanks, Joel. As you see Brandon Cooks on that punt return, the Saints want to get him involved in space. Punt returns, kickoff returns, screen passes, swing passes, some reverses. They just want to get the ball in his hands and let him allow him to use that speed and elusiveness. We know he's fast, 4.33 in the 40, but we've seen some elusiveness out of him in training camp that we didn't necessarily know that he had. Joel?
All right, John, how many touches can you get for Brandon Cooks? As Ryan Griffin, former member of the Green Wave, takes over at quarterback. Little eye action. And Ingram belts into the backfield, losing about 4, almost 5. Make it a -4 on the snap. But when it comes to Cooks, are we looking at a guy that eventually is going to take up the Darren Sproles role?
I think he's probably going to take over part of that role. I think it's going to be a committee effect as to how you replace a guy like Darren Sproles.
No doubt. He's being used now at all the wide receiver positions, so that speaks to what you're talking about, Stinch. And Joe, everybody talks about how fast he is. Let me pass along this note to you. He ran a 4.33 in the 40 at the Combine. That's the same time as Reggie Bush at his pro day at USC. 4.33.
The fumble at the end of the reception by Toon. And they're going to say he was already down and forward progress was stopped.
Let's take a look, see whether he's actually down before they rip the ball out.
Hard to tell from that angle. If anything, it's his left knee.
Way to be a homer, Sean. I like that.
Preseason.
Saints ball.
3rd and 9. And close to the 26. First series for Ryan Griffin. He eludes the pressure, but underthrown. And a flag. Is it going to be defensive holding? Because Cooks was all tangled up going over the middle, away from the play.
This illegal
Prior to the
contact.
pass, holding, number 20, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Yeah, they're accounting for Cooks. Believe me, they know about him too.
And Joel, it's interesting as you caught it right away, the hold here. This illegal contact and the ability for defenders to put their hands on anybody past 5 yards now is going to change the game at the NFL level this year.
A new point of emphasis you're talking about. There's Cooks. And even though he wasn't primary, he's still tangled up.
That's right.
He'll go out past the 35, 36. So now this is an important preseason for Nick too. He's getting ready for his 3rd year, 4th round pick out of Wisconsin. You guys talked about it a little bit at the top of the telecast. We'll get into it a little bit more, but after only 4 catches last year, all of a sudden kind of a magnifying glass on him in this preseason. End of the first 15 minutes of play, early lead. Points off a turnover for the Rams, but the Saints have it. They're driving once again, trailing by 4. End of the first 15, all brought to you by Rouse's, 7-3 St. Louis. Along the banks of the Mississippi, beautiful night downtown St. Louis. Welcome back once again. Joel Myers, John Stinson, Sean Kelly, Mike Neighbors, John DeShazer. And we may have more in the booth than they have in the ballpark. This is not going to be the case next week at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. That's a guarantee. In motion, Joe Morgan. On 2nd and about 5. Good play fake by Ryan Griffin. Trying to buy some time. Yeah, poked away from his motion man, Morgan. The micrographedhairrestoration.com first quarter numbers. That's a mouthful. And the Saints, as we said, they were efficient except for the bottom category. And the 1 turnover. They moved it, though. Don't forget that's without Drew Brees.
And with a mix on the offensive line. Stitch,
Yes.
What are you seeing about the rotation up front now for New Orleans?
Looks like Jonathan Goodwin and Tim Lolito are taking every other series at center. Both the tackles, Armstead and Streif, are now comfortably watching from the sideline.
Griffin on a little comeback and threw it for Cooks. Off target, though. And it almost looked like the left tackle had lifted up anyway for the Saints. Let's check in with John DeShazer. John?
Yeah, guys, one of the only guys who remained on the offensive line then was Senio Clemente. He was the guy who started at right guard. He played a little bit with his second unit. Interesting story with Senio. First offensive lineman in NFL history to catch a pass in his first game. Caught a 10-yard pass off a carom from Brian Hoyer. Joel?
All right, JD, thank you. First punt of the contest.
How come you didn't catch one your first game?
Beauty by Morstead. Austin pinned to the boundary. And Tavon Austin makes the first miss. Can't dance in this league. He's down across the 15. Only the 17. Good coverage by the Saints as Wade was the first one down there. The Rams get it back. 4-point game as we welcome you back to St. Louis, and we also look forward to a Pelicans new season.
Yep, and Monty Williams, Anthony Davis, and the guys have spent a very busy offseason trying to get this team better, and ticket plans for the 2014-15 season are on sale now. Variety of ticket packages available, including half-season, 12-game options that are headlined by the ever-popular weekend plan, and ticket packages start at this point as low as $185. 504-525-HOOP.
It'll be Sean Hill at quarterback once again, 14-year vet out of Maryland, from the 17 of St. Louis. And it was Stacy who was met by Akeem Hicks. So in midseason form, Akeem Hicks firing off the ball that time.
Boy, that is a big, wide defensive end. Plays with a lot of power. He's in his third season. He's only gotten better. They're expecting a lot of big things from Akeem Hicks.
Nickname is Godzilla. He's had a great camp so far.
I wonder why it's Godzilla.
Well, it's earned. I mean, look at the way he's played, especially dating back to last year. And this is the guy I think up front that's going to have the biggest breakout this season for the Saints.
Only his third season. Third round pick in 2012. And it's going to bring up third and long after that carry.
So 2 stops on the run here, Stinch. This is one thing that Sean Payton emphasized at the start of camp. We have to not only run the ball better, but we have to defend the ball on the run just as well.
And it all starts with the big hogs up front. And you got Bunkley, Hicks, Jordan, Gillette. If they can hold the front, free up the linebackers to make plays, then that takes out an entire dimension for any offense that they face.
Saints top 5 in the league last year defensively in third downs. Holding opponents just 35% on a conversion rate. Hill with time, but too tall and great coverage out on the corner as well. Exceptional on that side, Kenny Vaccaro, and we talked about it. It doesn't seem like it's just getting ready for his second season, the poise he displays.
He's a guy that took last year and launched himself. The only thing that slowed him down was the injury. And here now in his second season, smarter player, but just as intense as we said at the top of the broadcast.
What I like the most is 3 and out. And it's back-to-back 3 and outs for the defensive unit. 52 yards the last punt for Hecker with great hang time. Best net average in the NFL last year. And Cooks with a fair catch. Great field position, though, when we come back. And a wise decision on knuckleball coming down by Brandon Cooks. The Arch in St. Louis as the Saints try to take the lead. Saints get it back, and they have been efficient on the offensive side as they get it for the 4th time now. Only 1 turnover, and that was the points for the Rams. Slidell Memorial Hospital powering the CST Twitter account tonight. You can tweet your questions right now, your comments, anything you like at Cox Sports TV. All of us here at the Dome, including Victor Howell back in the studio, are going to be bringing them your way a little bit later and commenting on the Twitter page from the Louisiana Cats studio. So that's at Cox Sports TV, powered by Slidell Memorial Hospital. Griffin underneath Cooks. I think they're accounting for the young man. It's a gain of 3. Let's check in with Mike Neighbors. Mike?
Hey, Joel, you talked about Brandon Cooks earlier. You know what has impressed this team, despite his, hands and his speed, is the way he loves the game. Drew Brees worked out with him before training camp in San Diego for a week and a half and says he wants to be great. He's a sponge, and the thing that really has impressed Brees is he'll tell him something once, and he'll really pick it up. Unlike a lot of rookies, their heads are spinning. He has a quick mind. Sean Payton wants him to work on his technique, but everybody's been impressed so far. Back to you.
All right. Trying to get to the outside. It was Kyrie Robinson. Short game. Maybe a yard. And while we're talking about Cooks, and Mike mentioned it, he's not only talking to Colston and some of the other veteran wide receivers, he's talking to Champ Bailey at the end of practices. And what do I need to do? And what about technique against veteran defensive backs?
Poor Champ Bailey. He's had 4 and 5 rookies hang on him like an entourage everywhere he goes. Dining hall, practice field, weight room, it doesn't matter.
I don't know if there's a better one to learn from. He's played at such a high level.
What a throw by Griffin. Look, it's going down the middle. Josh Hill, one more block. And out of bounds with a block in the back impact, unfortunately. So it'll be 1st and 10.
That's going to be on Nick Toon, but Hill's a guy that they've used not only as a tight end, but on special teams where he may make this team, and they've used him as a backup emergency fullback.
How about the throw, the lead?
That's a missile by Griffin, who's really sharpened his game here during training camp. You know, he says, Joel, that he's had 2.5 seasons in the Sean Payton offense.
88. Offense, 10-yard penalty. The yardage still results in a first down.
The half season, you ask? Well, he says that his last year at Tulane with Curtis Johnson as the head coach there, that was like the mini Saints playbook, so he only counts that as the half season.
There's the block at the back. They called on Toon. And, oh, by the way, Josh Hill wasn't drafted.
Another guy.
Right.
Add him to the list.
This is a really good staff. The way they assess talent with Mickey Loomis and his group. There's a reason. Since Drew Brees came, one of the best in the NFL. Man, underneath, Robinson again. Boy, tough to bring down. He's got about
hard.
9. And we saw that last year in his rookie season, that he just doesn't quit with the first hit. There's yards after contact.
That's if he doesn't juke you out of your shoes first on his cutback, which he did last week at the black and gold scrimmage.
Saints in the red zone in the Slap Your Mama Cajun Seasoning red zone.
Tell you what, Joel, Griffin's experience this week with Drew Brees out and throwing to the 1s and 2s and getting the extra reps is really going to pay off for him.
Well, we like the short game that he's directing right now.
He's moved in the pocket well, too.
Yes.
Well, when there's pressure, he's been able to keep his eyes.
60, offense, 5-yard penalty, second down.
He's kept his eyes downfield looking for an open receiver even when the pocket collapses.
Thomas Wells out of Vanderbilt trying to make it as a right tackle.
It hurts my heart to circle a tackle when he moves. I think he sneezed. It was barely. I don't even know how you see that.
That's a back spasm.
I'd let that go.
They don't feel those, do they? It'll be second.
Have you ever agreed with the call?
Only against the D-line. Okay.
You know, after the scrimmage last Saturday at the Greenbriers, Griffin waits, and there's going to be another flag, and potentially will it be a hold? Yes.
I just said
and it may be a hold as they were trying to release the back downfield.
Prior to the pass, holding. Number 54, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Yeah, that's the backer. That's Philip Stewart holding the running back coming out.
I just said during the timeout, man, I can't believe we haven't had as many flags as I thought. Well, here we go. So
had to happen.
You can see him right out of the backfield. I think he's got a pretty good grip.
The collar, that's included. He's grabbing Traveris Cadet. So first down from the 13. And more contact on Brandon Cooks. No flag that time.
I'm really surprised.
With the ball in the air.
Yes. Great little head and shoulder fake by Griffin before he threw the football.
If we're playing strict by the rules, that's well outside of the 5-yard.
Well, here's another look from the left sideline. There's contact, but the ball's in the air and it's a catchable ball, Joel.
The one thing, and you guys talked about it, Ryan Griffin hit those 8 straight passes in the scrimmage last week, and Sean Payton said he's extending the pocket. He's making things happen. He's continuing plays. 2nd and 10. Little screen action and a good look over to the left side. Ankle tackle probably saves the touchdown. Well, the tackle couldn't get out there. And I'm talking about Marcel Jones because it looked like Cadet was going to get there. Ray Armstrong making the stop.
Well, you got in center. There's Jonathan Goodwin. He may be 35 years old, but he gets out front just as easily as a 25-year-old. Locks up on the DB. Opens up that screenplay to be successful, get him to the 8-yard line.
And Marcel Jones with the attempt at the downfield block. He's been running with the 1s this week.
And that's a tough play as we saw it over. With the linebacker flying low. It'll be 3rd and about 4. Little slant, Cooks, and it's going to be 1st and goal to the 2.
He doesn't drop a thing, Joel. I think unofficially on my scorecard, he dropped 1 ball in the first 2.5 weeks of training camp.
Little guy with guns, isn't he?
Oh, there's no doubt.
9th first down of the game for the Saints.
He's in the slot right here. They're moving Cooks across the board. X, Y, Z. He's having to learn a number of positions, and I think they're just trying to find ways to get him the ball. He's a real playmaker.
Kyrie Robinson in the eye on the play fake. Austin Johnson dumped down right after the reception. It'll be 2nd and goal, hanging on. E.J. Gaines busting up that attempt. get up to the line in a hurry-up mode for Ryan Griffin. And Kyrie Robinson's in. Saints take the lead. So before the Rams could really set or even call a timeout, it almost like they weren't prepared. Smart play by the Saints.
Half the D-line didn't have their hand on the ground.
Tempo's everything. We've seen it in camp so far. It's one thing that Sean Payton's been pleased about, the practices, especially that's in the cooler weather, a more efficient climate at camp at the Greenbrier. And like you said, Stinch, defensive line is barely even ready to leverage against that push.
Well, part of it is you're so early in camp, I'm not sure they have the goal line plays installed. So you go with your base offense. No need to waste time on subbing personnel.
There you go.
It's coming to
Off
play
the
already.
upright. There you go. The experimentation during the preseason, I mentioned it. Extra points last season. The regulars, 99.6%. But field goal tries from 30 to 39, where they're trying this experiment at 33 on extra points, 90%. And Graham hits the upright. So lead just the same for the Saints with 8:32 to play in the half. 2-point lead with 8:32 to play in the half. Saints travel well, we know that. We welcome the start of the football season with the Saints kickoff run. It's all presented by Chevron. Family-friendly 5K event on Saturday, September 6th. So the run will start in Champion Square, follows the downtown route, and the runners finish on the 50-yard line in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. So the new elements in the this year's edition, Corporate Cup Challenge for the largest team, costume contest, half-mile play 60 is Chris Gibbons is going to bring it about 4 yards deep out of the end zone with a little lane over to the left side and adjust nicely for a good return. Dimke kicked it away, the second-year man out of Illinois. And it's brought back to the 29. But don't forget registration for the Saints kickoff run. Now open at Saints5K.com. And the best part of it all, the proceeds from the event benefit the New Orleans Recreation Development Commission and the Louisiana Children's Museum. Rouse's scoring drive, 61 yards, 9 plays, and a touchdown run by Kyrie Robinson. Goal post to the left, got in the way of the extra point. For the Rams, it's been a while since they had a first down. 3 and out their last 2 series. Hill stays in there. And again, and there's going to be a holding call on the play. Illegal contact in the backfield, but it's complete to Harkey. Their third-year tight end out of UCLA, a guy that wasn't drafted. Put out by Corey White. Gain of about 8 or 9, but it's coming back, I believe.
You know, Graham's extra point attempt that hit the left upright, Joel, that ball last year doesn't hit the upright. It's 5 feet taller this year than it was a year ago. It's gone from 30 feet tall to 35 feet tall.
So then you ask the official to make the decision on a shot right over the upright, whether it's good or not.
Illegal use of hands. Number 67 defense. 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Interesting because the Rams all walking backwards. They thought it was against them. That's Brandon Dedrick out of Alabama his 5th year. Free agent from Jacksonville this year. Who was called for the infraction. Hand under the helmet potentially.
He's got it right on his face mask. You can see that's usually a call that sometimes you get to slide with. As an offensive lineman, you hate it, but hands get slid up high into your face.
It's going to go more so both ways this year, guys. And I'll explain why after this play.
From the 34. Little crossing pattern underneath. And a completion for the first down. It'll go to Lance Kendricks.
Sorry, Joel. In talking to Gene Steratore, who visited Saints camp last week, that illegal use of the hand stitch that you were talking about, that's usually an offensive lineman that's getting called for that. Now any contact, head, face mask, helmet, offense or defense is going to get flagged as a point of emphasis.
Well, that's great news for offensive linemen out there because D linemen's hands constantly slide up into your face.
Yes.
Lunging across the midfield stripe, a gain of about 3 for Benny Cunningham out of Middle Tennessee State, a guy that wasn't drafted last year. Had a 5.5-yard average, though. Brought down by Glenn Foster.
And Stinch, you know, it used to be that a defensive lineman or a linebacker could smack you as an offensive lineman upside the head. If he pulled his hand immediately back, there was going to be no call. Any contact this year will be flagged.
Just what we need, more stoppages. Second down at about 8. but for the right reasons. Underneath, again, it's the tight end. He just kind of settled in between the coverage. And it's Kendricks. They've got a couple of good tight ends in Lance Kendricks and Jared Cook. This is a team that really struggled offensively last year. 30th out of 32 teams in total offense.
Well, Sam Bradford was off to a good start, actually, as their starting quarterback last year before he left with an injury. Bradford's never really gotten a fair shake, it seems, Joel, here. He's either had an offensive line that's been a sieve in front of him or a receiving core that's, well, less than electric. So they think now...
First charge timeout, New Orleans.
They think now that they may have the right mix to let Bradford shine a little bit.
Well, Bradford's not going to play tonight, but a big year for him is 6th as the first overall pick out of Oklahoma for the St. Louis Rams. It's the preseason opener for the Saints with a 2-point lead over the Rams. Rams have it on a 3rd and short coming up. Time now for our Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers Trivia. And who are the 2 former Saints players to win AP Offensive Rookie of the Year awards? Good question.
I think I got half of it.
Doesn't count. 3rd and a couple. Inside the 39.
Tough room.
Sean Hill. And Cunningham breaking through tackles for the first down. Big yardage for Cunningham. So he got through the arm tackle, put it on the ground, but they say he's down at the 25, put him at the 24. And brought down by Pierre Warren in the secondary. So they had him stop for no gain.
Great penetration. Tyron Walker stops the play before it starts. Cunningham makes a great spin move, finds some space on the edge outside of Dawson, runs to green grass.
You mentioned Pierre Warren on the stop, Joel. He's a guy that's had an impressive start to the camp. A guy that they may count on here for special teams help. And like Stinch, you said earlier, that's the easiest route, or maybe the only route for some of these guys to make this squad.
Yeah, he's a rookie from Jacksonville State. Well, a new tradition in LSU athletics is set to begin August 30th on Cox Sports Television. It's LSU Game Day Live, a new 1-hour pregame show that is going to air Saturdays at 11 a.m. Central, beginning with LSU's season opener against Wisconsin from NRG Stadium in Houston. Kevin Mawai, Jacob Hester, Gordy Rush, Victor Howell, and Emily Dixon are going to team up for all your game day activities. CST, your exclusive regional sports network of LSU athletics. LSU and Wisconsin starting things off. I can't wait for September 6th as well. The Green Wave at home. New ballpark going into the corner of the end zone. Touchdown St. Louis. Turning around and Stedman Bailey found it in his breadbasket.
The difficult route to cover. But at the same time, that defensive back has to be more ball aware, Stinch. That far down in the red zone.
That's a play that you're going to see constantly in the NFL. It's just a back shoulder. You get a little bit of a push off from the wide receiver to create that separation right there, and it's just enough space to pull it back in. But like you say, you got to make that play.
Stanley Jean-Baptiste is a draft choice of the Saints here this offseason. He struggled with some of the mental aspects of making the transition from Nebraska to the NFL.
There's a learning curve for every player, and for some it's a little steeper, but you know, for a young guy, you just have to pick it up and learn as you go. It's experience more than anything, and to get better, you have to experience a play like that and learn from it and not let it happen again.
Now, one thing he's been smart enough about is to lean on some of these veterans that we have in the defensive secondary. He's been very vocal and very active in wanting to learn, especially from a guy like Keenan Lewis. Lewis has emerged now here in training camp, Stitch, as a guy that Rob Ryan says is perhaps one of the better shutdown corners now in the NFL. Stunned that he wasn't a Pro Bowler last year, expects him to be this year.
Well, they say top 3 in the league. You talk to a number of the coaches, management, and they really speak highly of Keenan Lewis and his ability. Now you add in some other pieces. Kenny Vaccaro's 1 year older. You just signed the biggest free agent safety you've got, and Jairus Byrd. So lots of new pieces to add to that secondary.
Oh, and a future Hall of Famer in Champ Bailey, too.
Don't forget about him. How could you?
Zierlein converting on the point after. A 5-point game now with 5:59 left in the half. So covered 71 yards. Didn't take long. 5 plays, 2.5 minutes off the clock. And just 3 first downs. So after back-to-back stops, 3 and out with a punt. As Zierlein gets into it, it is going to be Travaris Cadet, and going low with no momentum will stay in the end zone as the Saints will have it on the touchback. Throughout the course of the preseason, we're going to introduce you to new members of the Saints, and we start with the third rounder last year. Got to know him a little bit last year, especially at the end of the year. He played phenomenal football down the stretch. Teron Armstead.
Hey Saints fans, I'm Teron Armstead. I like to listen to Drake. I really enjoy playing video games. PlayStation 4 is my favorite. Martin Lawrence is my favorite comedian. He makes me laugh. My favorite food is hands down pizza. And the one thing you might not know about me is I'm a pretty good freestyle rapper.
I like it. Freestyle rapper, pizza, I'll go with that as well.
All around nice guy. You know, Zach Strief describes Armstead as freakishly athletic for an offensive lineman. What is Zach talking about specifically there?
Well, his feet move really well. The first play of the game, he's at an open edge tackle. He's got to reach a defensive end who's aligned outside of him. And within his first 2 steps, he's already hooked the defensive end and set up the play. So that's where it starts, his athleticism. But what guys are talking about now is his work ethic. He's taken that talent, that God-given ability, and he's honing his craft daily. You talk about he's staying after practice. He's working with assistant offensive line coach Frank Smith. He's learning from some of the older guys.
Travaris Cadet on the reception and the first down as we check in with Mike Neighbors. Mike?
You guys touched on it. There's hard to find anybody saying anything wrong with Teron Armstead, and they saw the potential late last year. He played so well. I asked Zach Strief, how good can this guy be? He said, as good as he wants to be. And playing off what John said, Strief says that when he watches him on film, it's almost strange. He hasn't seen many linemen like him that are that big and that athletic. Back to you guys.
Yeah, and that's what pressure on him when he took over late last season in the playoffs, and he played like he'd been there, like he had all the reps with the first unit anyway. That's the surprising aspect. So he's around for a long time.
Yeah, they will.
Let's head over to John DeShazer. JD?
Yeah, when we're staying with Teron Armstead, it tells you something about his ability that he didn't play for the first 14 games. He comes in, he starts the last 2 games as well as the 2 playoff games. We've seen him in training camp going one-on-one against Junior Gillette, one of the better speed rushers in the league, has held his own. Junior Gillette says he's got as good a feet as he's seen anywhere.
Yeah, he's on the sideline right now. Saw him very early in the game. He's not going to be out there a lot. We knew that. The first series or 2 for the first unit guys. And by the way, let's not forget how good Mark Ingram has looked turning the corner tonight in his 4th year, former Heisman Trophy winner. Couldn't get the first down there on 3rd and a couple. It'll be tuned, and he's right at the marker. It'll depend upon the spot, and he gets a real good one. So it'll be a first down across the 42, close to the 43.
Joe, I'm so glad you brought up Ingram again, because dating back to late last year and then into the postseason, it seemed that Ingram had really started to finally turn the corner. This is a guy that, I guess over his time as a Saint, has probably taken more heat from Saints fans than anybody else. And if he picks up and carries from where he left last season, now you're talking about your durable all-down back that Stinch you referred to in the open tonight.
Well, he's a guy, he's hungry. He's not resting on that first-round draft. What he wants to do is he wants to produce. The issue is that sometimes when you get so hungry, instead of being patient, you press. And as we know, there's few balls that get handed off in the Saints system because it's so prolific a passing system. And when you get those opportunities, you want to try to make everything of them. Well, if there's nothing there and you start pressing, you're actually taking a step back instead of being hungry and patient and waiting for that hole to get created. And I think it's a matter of his maturity in this system that led to his success last year, especially late.
Well, he had the toe injury, so he misses the first 5. Don't forget, though, that he had a 97-yard average per game over the last 6, and then the 97 yards on the butt against the Eagles in the postseason. So Ingram came on. There's no question about that. Now, maybe the competition, that he wasn't getting every snap. Pierre Thomas was in there, and Kyrie Robinson, although they kind of pulled it back to those 2, Ingram, and towards the end of the year, not as many touches for Kyrie Robinson, who was probably the most pleasant surprise among the running backs.
Sproles was in the mix, too?
Without a doubt. And how many touches can you give a guy? And Darren had to have touches, because that's your home run threat, which hopefully Cooks is going to be eventually. Jeff Fisher, by the way, challenged the spot. it was moving too quickly in the first half.
The nice thing about this new replay system, Joel, is this. In the new centrally based replay system control room in New York, the NFL officials are already looking at this play before they referee.
The ruling on the field stands. First down.
And I don't think during the regular season Fisher challenges that.
No, probably not.
But he's going to do it here. And as we saw on the replay, he was already across the 42 where he had to go for the first down.
So before the referee reaches the hood, they're already looking at the play in New York. This is supposed to speed up the game. We all need that.
Quarterback rating pretty good right now for Ryan Griffin as you look at his numbers. And it's going to be a challenge with the challenge.
Charge timeout.
Right. They're fixing the board. Lost the challenge. It's the preseason. Watch the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Oh,
and that was a 4.5-hour game.
41
I mean, it was
the winning score.
41-39.
Oh, 41 to win.
They had a lot of conferences. So it'll be first down for the Saints, close to the 43. This is the 5th series of the contest. And another good run by Ingram into the secondary. Ingram all the way to the 35. Boy, it's healthy. And we talk about by committee, but the ultimate is if one guy really wants the load and he forces the hand of the staff.
Right. Well, first you see that monstrous lane that he's got right here. Wow, that's not even close to what the telestrator is supposed to point out, but there was a huge lane. Then in that second level, he's able to make guys miss. He's shifty. He's got power. So a great job by the front line to get him into that second level, and then it was all Mark Ingram.
Little pump fake action, and on the sideline knowing it was coming. I'm talking about a pop Joe Morgan on an overthrown ball. And while you talk about the lane he just had, let's remind everybody who wasn't with us at the start of the telecast, Ben Grubbs, Jari Evans, they're not playing. Your two Pro Bowlers guards aren't even in the lineup tonight.
They're not here, but I talked to Coach Ingles, offensive line coach. He's high on the group that they've got in camp. It's been a competitive group. With your Pro Bowler guards down, you expect a huge drop-off, but it also gives opportunities for other guys to prove to coaches that they can play this game too, and if in the season they need to be called on, they're ready.
Little stop. Yeah, it'll be a first down. Joe Morgan won't quit on the play, will he?
How good is it to see the fastest guy in your roster getting a real solid chance to make this team in a crowded wide receiver group? This after missing, Joel, all of last season with a devastating injury. Morgan is in a battle because you have so much young talent infused into this wide receiver group, but you can't deny his speed, and it's so good to feel him running and playing with confidence after missing all of last season.
And by the way, he wasn't drafted. I mean, that's kind of the theme with this team, that they find those diamonds. A cutback and a beauty by Mark Ingram. Look out, he's gone. Touchdown Saints, and they take the lead.
Stitch, you're going to talk about the great play of the offensive line, because I know that's you. But that's powerful, shifty running that we've seen throughout this entire drive by number 22.
What it is great vision. He was able to see a cutback lane. He hits the hole at the front line and sees that backside tackle get up to the second level, cuts behind it, breaks the tackle of a safety, and it ends up in a touchdown. That's exactly what they expect, what they need from Mark Ingram this season.
It's interesting, Morstead holding here, Joel. This is normally Ryan Griffin or Luke McCown's job. But with those guys taking all the reps at quarterback, here's Morstead as your holder.
Shane Graham solid on this one after hitting the upright on the last. So it's going to be a 2-point lead for the Saints at 16-14. Look back, though. And the cutback you were talking about, Stinch.
Gotcha. As the play rolls, you can see that the hole opens up. There's the cutback. He sees the guard hooked up at the second level. He breaks the tackle of the safety, ends up in the end zone. Great vision, great job of covering up everybody at the first level, allowing Mark to see where that cut is and able to break that tackle at the second level.
All right, now I'll talk about your alignment, because Thomas Welch, who's a deeper down the depth chart guy off of Vanderbilt, has a great block to help spring Ingram on the play.
You can see everybody's fired up for him, too.
Yeah, I like Drew Brees with 3 straight 5,000-yard seasons, but I'd sure love to see Mark Ingram with a big number by his name at the end of the year as well. It'll be Trey Mason waiting for the kick as we check in with John DeShazer. JD.
Yeah, Joel, Mark Ingram is in a contract year, and General Manager Mickey Loomis said, look, we want him to get a great contract. We want it to be from the Saints. What Mark just did on that touchdown run, that's what he can do best. But he's worked on his versatility during this training camp. His pass block, his blitz pickup, as well as his receiving. That'll keep him on the field more often.
That kick deep into the end zone by Derek Dimke as Trey Mason brings it across the 15 with a flag very late. But efficient running from the beginning for Mark Ingram, not just the touchdown.
You see great vision. You see a lot of broken tackles. He's running with some authority. He's shifty. Great game so far for Mark Ingram.
Pads forward every time he makes one of those shifty moves you're talking about, Stitch. His balance has been tremendous.
You can see on that touchdown play his patience to the hole. Once he hits it, boy, he turns it on, but it's not full speed the whole time. He doesn't have that pedal down from the jump. He waits for the hole to develop. He hits it. He reads his block, and he makes that cut. Otherwise, he runs into the back of those linemen, and it's not there.
I'll take the average, Joel, 10.4 yards per carry so far.
And then it gets into, and we're going to be talking about it, especially in the fourth game, numbers by position. How many do you keep? How many running backs? How many wide receivers? And if you have two running backs that are going to stand out, they're going to be a rotation. You may not have to keep as many at a particular position. Good play in the backfield. Man, coming up big was Humber on the solo hit in his 6th year out of North Dakota State. So no gain on that carry from the 8.
You know, last year we had all those injury problems with the linebacking core. That caused Rob Ryan to go in and use more safeties. And that's now the topic of conversation about the evolution of defense in the NFL. But the health and the depth right now, linebacker Joel, and Humber's included in this conversation, right, is so nice to talk about as opposed to the attrition we saw last year.
New quarterback in there. We'll talk about it when we come back for the Rams, and that is Garrett Gilbert, the rookie from SMU. 2-minute warning in St. Louis, and a 2-point lead for the Saints. Don't forget, at the conclusion of the matchup here at the Dome in St. Louis is going to be Saints Tonight, live from the Louisiana Cat Studio. Breakdown of the game with Paul Crane, Victor Howell, Deuce McAllister. Mike Neighbors is going to head to the locker room as well to bring you interviews from the Saints players in our exclusive one-on-one with Drew Brees after the game. You'll want to check that out. That is Saints Tonight, right after the game, only on CST. So a solid start. Only one mistake so far, and basically, and I'm talking about putting the ball on the ground. Well, it was a turnover, and it was in the air. McCown picked off on the opening series of the game. Is an interception by the defensive end. A play that didn't develop, a very quick play on a setup for a screen. And the Rams capitalized on a touchdown pass to their tight end. Now, Garrett Gilbert on the quick out, and it's complete to Tavon Austin out of West Virginia, the first-round pick last year. Garrett Gilbert, though, interesting story. Gale's son, you might remember him, former Cal Bear, played with the Chargers, played with the Buffalo Bills. Garrett started with Mack Brown out of Austin's Lake Travis High School, and then moved on, and under June Jones at SMU, started to pick it up his last couple of years.
Boy, his arm ought to be worn out playing in that system. They air it out at SMU now.
Yeah, very entertaining offense. 10 games last year, hit 2/3 of his passes for 3,500 yards. So on third down, out of the gun, extra rusher, and Austin's got a little space. So Tavon Austin, who's the first wide receiver taken in the first round by the Rams since Torrey Holt back in '99, and that didn't work out too badly for the Rams, did it? Their greatest show on turf.
Stanley Jean-Baptiste on defense there, Joel. JD asked him earlier this week, so how do you pronounce your name? He said it's Stanley Jean-Baptiste, but I know it should be Jean-Baptiste. So he was even admitting that he pronounces his own name incorrectly.
Well, he's meant to be in New Orleans with that name, isn't he? Pick, should. You could see that coming.
There's Pierre Warren again.
Yeah, Pierre Warren couldn't hang on, but read it, and read Garrett Gilbert, who didn't read the safety on the play.
Well, that's a great read. He's watching his eyes. He thought he had it. Boy, it's tough when you don't come down with those.
A break for Gilbert and the Rams deep in their own territory. And it's going to be 2nd and 10 from the 20. Warren from Deatsville, Alabama. A rook out of Jacksonville State.
That's been a major emphasis, hasn't it, Sean? This whole training camp, the defense has been preaching turnovers and getting the ball.
It's absolutely a must. If the Saints are to push back past where they did last season, they have to get back to where they were in the Super Bowl year, be at the top of the league.
Prior to pass, illegal use of hands to the face. Number 30, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Yeah, that was away from the play. Trevin Wade out of Arizona in the middle of the field as the ball was sailing on the opposite side.
Those takeaways, they have to get back to the top of the league. At the takeaway statistic for the Saints defense, it was sorely missing last year. Every time there's a play in 11-on-11, doesn't matter the drill, they're trying to ball hawk, rake it out of there, tip it. Every time the ball is clearly incomplete, they act as if it's a pick or a fumble. They go get it and try to move the ball downfield.
Humber.
It's truly been a point of emphasis. Sorry, Jeff.
Hanging on to the ball carrier. And let's see if Fisher uses a timeout. Yes. So a timeout is taken. Let's head back downstairs. John DeShazer, what's the latest? And let's head over to the other side. Mike Neighbors. Mike?
Hey, guys, we have spent the last 2 weeks in beautiful West Virginia, the Greenbrier Resort. And you know what? Training camp is never easy, but John Stinchcomb will attest some locations may be easier than others. Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, a stark contrast to Greenbrier. We've enjoyed the temperatures, probably in the low 70s the past couple weeks. I like what Curtis Lofton said for the first practice. You know, I usually lose about 8 pounds. I think I lost 1 pound today. And Drew Brees, you know, he talked about the temps, how he could lay on the ground, and he really felt like you could go all day. And I think the main thing, you know, we could talk about the temperatures and the picturesque views, but the main thing these players take away from camp is they're getting more accomplished. Less water breaks, more productivity. JD, what do you think?
And I think that's the huge thing. These guys had better recovery time. They do it in New Orleans, and the heat breaks you down. The humidity breaks you down. And as Mike mentioned, the water weight, so it takes you time to build it back up. But there was less recovery time, so practices were significantly shorter in West Virginia than they are on Airline Highway.
Everything, Joel, was so comfortable for the players. And I know Stinch is still pouting up here.
Yeah, he's sick over it, actually. He retired too soon.
A luxury resort, rides to and from. The facilities have been fantastic. Even the meals in the dining tent outside the new facility there have been unbelievable. The chefs of the Greenbrier have prepared all the meals under the direction of the Saints nutritionists. The meals, Stinch, have been so healthy that John and I were insinuating that if they threw a bunch of beef jerky and Snickers on the tables, it'd be like Shark Week. But they've done everything to make sure that these players have everything they need to be an efficient and ready-to-go football player.
I've got nothing to add.
Oh, come on.
I'm so sick to myself. I mean,
In
honestly.
on the hit as Trey Mason gets the first down. I was trying to get you out of it because I already talked to you about it before the game, and you really miss Jackson, Mississippi. You like the city, but not the summer, especially when it comes to camp. Reception short of the first down on the comeback is taken in by Austin. So the Rams have one timeout left. Final minute of the half. Wade on the coverage.
I'm glad they get their turn down service at night.
With the chocolate on the pillow. The completion and a flag on the play as it goes to Austin Pettis out of Boise State. D-back didn't turn around in time. Recognition was late.
Pass, holding, number 36 defense. That penalty's declined. Results of the play, first down.
So an opportunity to work the 2-minute drill with your rookie quarterback, Gail Gilbert, for Jeff Fisher, as they took Gilbert in the 6th round.
I'm a little surprised that Ball gets flagged here, Joel. Ball's had a good start to his training camp. I want to talk more about him as we go through the preseason with the CFL experience, but tough call for him in an effort to make this team.
From the Rams 8 to the 30, free thrown behind. The tight end Justin Cunningham.
Another flag.
And on another flag, it'll be a hit late on Gail Gilbert, or Garrett Gilbert.
15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
So now well within field goal range for the Rams. And too many penalties against the Saints.
It's definitely a point of emphasis during the preseason, the contact in the secondary between the cornerbacks and the wide receivers. On the last play, the hit on the quarterback, well, that's your adjustment phase for Sunsory from the college game where you have 2 or 3 seconds where you can whack the quarterback. In the NFL, they don't play that game anymore.
He's an aggressive guy who originally trained as a linebacker, Cincinnati out of Alabama.
On the shallow cross behind Stedman Bailey. By the way, the Rams are now in the Slap Yo Mama Cajun seasoning red zone.
Yes, they are.
Just wanted to remind you.
Spicy stuff right there.
11th play of the drive. St. Louis started back their own 8. They've been aided by too many penalties. It'll be 2nd and 10 with 37 seconds left in the half. Get it out of your system during the preseason. And right side, tight end.
It's a lot of young players in here.
Offense. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Justin Cunningham, practice squad guy last year for the Rams out of South Carolina.
You can see right at the end of the line. He got a little antsy. You see some defenders, some linebackers start to walk up in your gap. You're ready to get a little jump on things.
Rams once again, and they were last year, one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Out of their 90 in camp this year, 60 under the age of 25. Gilbert, ton of time and overshoots. He is back in the flat. And that was Trey Mason, the rookie out of Auburn, the 3rd-round pick.
Boy, Humber had him stride for stride. That was pretty good coverage for a linebacker, especially going that distance across the short side of the field.
Also lined up at left defensive end right there was Ronald Powell, the draft pick out of Florida. He's going to play some defensive end this game, and he really had a nice move to get across the top of the pocket right there.
Big play here, Joel.
Gilbert on 3rd and long. Inside give Mason. And the Saints weren't fooled by it. So,
nice
showing
play by
pass, they stayed at home as Humber has shown up against the run very effectively.
Great job of getting off that block and making a play. If Humber doesn't make that play, running back's got some space to run to the safety level. So nice job of closing that gap before he could get out.
So they'll wind it down, use their final timeout, and get Greg Zuerlein onto the field. Zuerlein, the young man out of Missouri Western, a 6th-round pick of the Rams, was kind of a sensation his rookie season because of all those long field goals and well beyond the 50. Not as many attempts beyond the 50 last year, but he was still 26 of 28. The story for the Saints in the first half, and Saints fans have to really be encouraged by running back Mark Ingram.
Well, he was impressive. Yeah. Great vision, great patience. He was able to make some cuts, make some guys miss. He played with power, pretty shifty. Thoughts, Sean?
Well, the average speaks for itself, obviously. But I think the versatility in his game, Stinch, that you're talking about, is maybe the most encouraging thing to me. There's another flag's thrown here.
Make that 5 penalties. Plus 1 decline.
Number 65, offense. 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
All this drive. So far, it's been a fairly clean game. There were some penalties here and there, but 5 penalties in one drive is a tough way to end the half.
Not so much a chip shot now.
It'll be a 45-yard attempt for Zuerlein. Talked about the field goals beyond 50 his rookie season. The exchange is good, and he fades it right down the middle. So Zuerlein from 45, and the Rams take a slight edge by way of a missed extra point by the Saints. One that hit the upright from Shane Graham, and that's the difference at the break. But the Saints have moved the ball. That has not been an issue. They have moved it up and down the field, whether it was McCown on the controls or Ryan Griffin. So it's halftime in St. Louis. And a 1-point lead for the Rams. Welcome back once again to the Dome in St. Louis. 30 minutes in the books as we continue with preseason game number 1. Joel Myers, John Stitchman, Sean Kelly. And what a start. We can talk about Ryan Griffin, but I'd rather talk, and we'll talk about Ryan Griffin, about Mark Ingram in particular, how efficient he looked and comfortable.
It's exciting to see. He's finally in stride. You can tell that there's been no drop-off from last season. He's hitting holes. He sees it. It's great.
He said the first week of practice he wanted to make a statement this preseason. We're listening. Check out the numbers.
Our Window World sideline report. Let's check in. First time, second half, John DeShazer. John?
Hey, guys. Coach Payton liked the running game, obviously. Mark Ingram especially. He liked the work that he saw from Ryan Griffin in the offense. Good tempo. Did not like the penalties, especially on that last drive. 3 penalties end up leading to a score for St. Louis as opposed to Pierre Warren coming up with the interception. Says, yes, he didn't like the interception, but more than that, he didn't like the sloppy play in terms of the turnovers, especially the quarterback roughing.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, J.D. The problems are Rouse's second half kickoff coming up now. And John, you alluded to it, that you want to go to the locker room feeling good about what you've already done, not something that you made a mistake with, and too many flags in the last drive.
Rough drive to end on, so many penalties. We talked about that as being one of the keys to the game is just play with high energy, play efficient, and did a pretty good job of that until that last series when it really just fell apart with penalties.
So a good start for the Saints. Missed extra point, the difference in the contest right now. And St. Louis is going to have the ball to start the second half as they send deep into the end zone. Greg Reed. So the Rams, one of the youngest team in the NFL. We're not going to see Sam Bradford tonight. It needs to be a breakthrough season for him. Reed about 3 yards into the end zone, brings it out. And will it get to the 20? He'll get to the 20 and about the 23. He tried to reverse field.
Well, that really challenges your assignment as a young player trying to make an NFL roster as a special teams player. Now, one thing I will say about the Saints special teams, Joel, is this. Sean Payton said at the start of camp, we are going to put an extra emphasis on special teams. We must be better in all categories. The amount of time they have spent at practice on special teams under special teams coordinator Greg McMahon has been nothing short of mountainous as far as the volume of time they've spent with each of those units.
Well, Marcus Ball, you're talking about a guy who played in the CFL the last couple of years on that special team stop. Gilbert puts it on the ground, out of sync completely. But it helps to have a man in the backfield on penetration, and that's Kyrie Ford, and he was there early.
This is a kid that when the Saints drafted him in May, I thought, boy, this is an interesting selection in a defensive position group that's already pretty full. But they really like that he can play most any of those positions, Stinch. And that versatility as a young player, he'll have a lot of guys to learn from, especially from the Loftons, Humbers, Hawthorns of that company.
He's lined up with his hand in the dirt a couple plays, a couple series now. So it's not just from a traditional linebacker position. It's more from a defensive end position also.
Trevin Wade blitz off the edge. Slight delay on the corner blitz, and boy, did it pay off. They got Gilbert back there. Walker cleaned up. So Garrett Gilbert, rookie quarterback, 6th round pick out of SMU. Don't think he saw that speed off the edge there.
No, and great job. How many times do you see the quarterback late, sees the pressure, is able to roll out from it and get away? It's frustrating to watch as a fan, but that was, you finally wrapped him up and finished off what you started.
And on 3rd and forever. It'll bring up a 4th down on the run by Trey Mason. A look at the Rams possession chart. All brought to you by Home Builders Self-Insurers Fund. And you see right after the pick and the 47-yard drive, back-to-back 3-and-out with a punt. But then the Rams got it going a little bit. They got a series, 5 plays, 71 yards, didn't take much time. And then the penalty flags cropped up on that long drive, the 13-play drive to close it out with a field goal. Brandon Cooks waits for the punt from Zerline. Or check that, Hecker. And it's off the side of his foot. Out of bounds it goes, but great field position for the first possession of the second half. As much as we want to see touches from Brandon Cooks, The Saints will take it at the midfield stripe. A little more than 2 minutes gone in the second half, and the Saints get it right back. As we look at the Saints possession chart, once again all brought to you by Home Builders Self-Insurers Fund. And the Saints about to start with their best field position to start a drive, but you can see they got it going with points in 3 of their last 4 possessions.
Thanks to running the football.
Yeah, Mark Ingram really set it up nicely. And let's not forget about what Ryan Griffin did, who's in there now and bouncing outside. It's Cadet with about 5 on first down as we head back downstairs. John DeShazer. JD?
Thanks, Joel. Ryan Griffin and this unit will probably be in a little bit longer. Coach Payton says this is phase 2. They're going to stay with phase 2 for a little while longer, probably maybe halfway through this quarter, a little bit longer. Then they'll go to phase 3. That'll be Logan Kilgore and the 3rd unit.
So, Stinch, what determines a phase? Is it number of plays or?
Well, usually it's how efficient can you be. So for the first group, phase 1, preseason game 1, you want to get a couple good drives. You finish the first series with an interception, obviously you're going to come back for more. But if you looked at that, the drive chart, there was an 11, there's 9, there's 9, there's 7. Those are sustained drives. That's exactly what they're looking for. They're not, you can learn a lot more about your personnel from drives like that, especially in the run game, when you string these plays back to back.
Low to Simon. Josh Hill turned around. Nobody at home. Looking for a little crease. Nothing there for Cadet. As he stopped right at the original line, the 24 of St. Louis. Well, a lot of times, and you talked about it, Stinch, a lot of times you start a game with an idea, but it changes. And if you get the snaps you wanted, and especially with your first unit, you get them off. But then it's all about film. It's not about the scoreboard in the preseason. It's about film.
It is. There's a lot of men out here fighting for jobs, and they're doing that in a number of ways. They're trying to take advantage of special teams plays. Every time, for these offensive players, every time they take the field, they're going to be graded on their assignment. How well did they run their route? If the ball is thrown to them, obviously they need to catch, and yak yards comes into play. But they're assessing every person on a play. They don't have to be the given receiver to be evaluated on what they're putting out on film.
It's one thing to look at film after practice for 2 straight weeks. This film's totally different. Totally different.
It's a slap your mama Cajun seasoning red zone opportunity now, even though it's 3rd down. It's at the 19. Need 5.
That is a red zone right there.
Griffin, one way, the other way, close to the first down, and then an incomplete pass. It was Cadet who couldn't bring it down cleanly. Would have been a yard shy anyway as we head back downstairs. Mike Neighbors, what's cooking?
Hey, Joel, Ryan Griffin, ironically, had some interest with the St. Louis Rams last year, and they had to put him on the roster, of course, the New Orleans Saints. And he said, you know what, that really helped his confidence, made him feel better about his position in the league. I also asked him about the draft, the fact the Saints didn't draft a quarterback, and a lot of young, good quarterbacks this past draft. And he said, you know what, I didn't watch the draft. I just worried about myself. Back to you.
Yeah, 23-year-old from Westlake Village, California, Chaminade High School there, and then a great career at Tulane. It'll be a 37-yard attempt for the lead. Derek Dimke, just about 2.5-3 hours away from him. He played his college football at Champaign-Urbana. That's got to be a good feeling for him. He's got a lead for the Saints on the conversion. 4.5 minutes gone by in the 3rd, and the Saints back on top under the dome and the arch in St. Louis. Michael Sam, 7th-round pick, the first openly gay player drafted in the NFL, has been on the field for the last couple of snaps. Sean Payton talked about the situation and the big picture earlier this week.
You know, if you listened last year to a year and a half ago to Parcells' Hall of Fame speech, I think it's very right on. You know, and I think we're in a business, we're in a league that is striving to win. And I think the locker room welcomes all those that can help them do that. And the history of our league has had players from every state, regardless of color and creed. And so I think the same thing would apply. I think the uniqueness is that this was a first.
And I think you hit it right on the head. And you probably can talk about this a little bit more. If a guy can help you win, come on, that's all that matters.
I don't know of a more diverse workforce than what you're going to find in an NFL locker room. You talk about guys from different backgrounds, different off-the-field practices, it doesn't matter. You come together, and it's like a family. You look out for your own.
It'll be at the 22. Garrett Gilbert stays in there at quarterback for his second series of the second half. Mason out of the backfield ran through the arm tackle before he's dumped at the 30, but a good run for about 8 as he's dropped by Sinceri in the secondary.
If you watch Glenn Foster right here, the tight end is pulling him just by running a route. Leaves a little bit of confusion right there, and Trey Mason's able to slip underneath the defensive end.
It happens so fast. And by the way, great open field tackle by Sinceri as well. I think he saves the play here for the Saints.
It'll be 2nd and 2 at the 30. Again, it's Mason. Former Auburn Tigers. Last 2 years at Auburn ran for better than 3,000 yards. And he's right at the first down marker. Russ's scoring drive for the Saints had to settle for the field goal. But got the first points of the second half with great field position. At least they capitalized with points starting at the 50.
How about the fact that a 37-yard field goal is only 4 yards longer than an extra point?
It's an experiment. What do you think of it? Do you think it'll stick? It's not going to stick this year.
No, it definitely changes the aspect of an extra point. 99% is obviously a high ratio, but an extra point being 33 yards, I can't exactly endorse that thought, Sean.
I want to back it up more because that'll encourage teams, especially like the Saints with their offense, to perhaps go for more two-point conversions. If you back it up a little bit more, Joel, now you're talking about a 50-50 shot, and you may encourage that going for 2, which helps scoring, I think.
By the way, Tyron Walker and Glenn Foster played well last year, and Walker is picking up right where he left off.
He is. Great penetration into the backfield. The running back had nowhere to go. I don't know how many plays you got in the playbook. If you start backing it up much further, how far back do you want to go?
You know what it'll do? It'll eliminate overtime. That's what it's going to do because you won't have as many ties.
I just want that play after a score to matter more.
On the play fake, Gilbert out of the edge with a bootleg action. And boy, once again, staying at home on the play is Trevin Wade, and he has shown up on film already.
Yes, and not just defensively here, Joe,
right,
but special teams as well.
Right, he's trying to make it right now in week 1 of the preseason as we head back to JD. John DeShazer.
Well, thanks, Joel. Sean, you mentioned backing it up more, and I think the actual proposal from New England was to back it up and have the line of scrimmage at the 25, which will make it a 42-yard PAT. That's to encourage teams to go for 2 and use their playbook and make the game a little bit more exciting.
Gamble, unless you have a guy that is automatic inside the 40. And there goes Garrett Gilbert. He is down. And that was just explosion up the middle that set it up for the men from the outside to finally get there. And the sack, I just talked about Glenn Foster, who played in 12 games last year as a rookie.
Great job of the entire defensive front collapsing the pocket. It was just a matter of who at the end of this, but you can see it's a 6-man pressure. He doesn't have much space. The pocket ends up collapsing on him. Glenn Foster ends up with the 1 sack in the stat book.
What is a presence up front like do to gap responsibility for offensive linemen as far as making sure they've got that covered as far as lanes go, I guess?
Brooks gets a block. Made the first miss. And again, with a flag at the end of the play, solid return by Cooks. And I was about to say good field position, but it may cost him 10 on the block.
Well, I'll say this. It makes a big difference when you're in New Orleans and you've got 2 Pro Bowl guards that can keep the front of the pocket pushed up close to the line of scrimmage, so that you don't have that collapse of the pocket effect.
Joel, we see those headsets now worn by the officiating crew. That's new this year.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 56 of the return team, 10-yard penalty.
Saints will get it back a little bit deeper in their own territory, but they haven't, and they also have the lead. 8 minutes into the third quarter, Saints get it back, and they've got it with a 2-point lead to their own 20. Well, a new season of CST Tonight premieres Saturday, August 30th. You tune in, and we'll break it down the first weekend of college football for you. Find out how LSU fared against the University of Wisconsin. Plus, we'll get you ready for the NFL regular season. That is every Saturday night, 10 o'clock Central, live from the Louisiana Cat Studio. Ryan Griffin, boy, valuable reps from snaps for him. It's Cadet out of the backfield. Runs out of racing room. big back at 6'1".
Joel, we mentioned the headsets here on the officiating
Yes.
crew. That's new this year. As you see on his left ear, those headsets now allow the officials to not only talk to each other on the field, but the referee, the white hat, now has the ability to communicate with New York as they get set for replay situations.
That's a big addition. That should really speed things up and allow them to communicate a lot better.
Well, it'll cut down on some of the conferences that you have to see. The official runs 30 yards to go find out what the call was.
No question.
Again, Cadet, nice lane over to the right side and right at the first down with the flag on the play. Did they grab him by the grill to bring him down?
Yeah,
the hand up in the face mask.
I think you nailed it there, Joel. I think that's the only call that's can be made right there. And of course, now with the headsets on, and I talk about that, they're going to go over and have a conference.
They were close.
Personal foul, face mask, number 38 defense. 15 yards will be added to the end of the play. Automatic first down.
Cody Davis out of Texas Tech.
That one's pretty easy to see. Not much you can do about that if you're Davis.
You know, I said this to you, and I mentioned it, Sean, to you as well. I can't wait to get to the Dome next week because I know this is a baseball town, but there's no atmosphere in this building. I can't wait to get inside the Dome where, I mean, compared, it'll be goosebumps because you know the noise. It'll be fun for all of us. Deflected as he's trying to dump it off on a procedure flag over to the far side against the Saints. Probably declined by the Rams.
Illegal motion, number 89 offense. He was moving forward at the snap. That penalty's declined. Second down.
You can see him right up here at the top of the screen. So he doesn't get set up right there. So the call is that he's still advancing in the line. If he has time, you have to be set for 1 second. Then it's no longer called advancement or movement while the ball is snapped.
Good execution on the delay for Trevera's Cadet. So Pierre Thomas doesn't play. Ingram looks sensational in the first half. Kyrie Robinson also looks effective, and Cadet. 4 running backs right there. And Cadet, your return guy to begin with.
And another new one, and on this play here is Derek Strozier, the rookie out of Tulane.
His first snap of the game.
Tulane's almost a feeder program with Coach CJ, the head coach. You know, Strozier, they used him at cornerback just out of necessity, and because of the relationship that former coach, wide receivers coach for the Saints, Curtis Johnson, head coach currently for Tulane, he's able to make that phone call and say, listen, guys, he would have been by far our best running back. He needs a shot.
And he got it his senior season at Tulane after you said. And now his first touch in the bigs, it's a first down.
And as soon as he makes this catch and gets up, he heads back to the sideline. That's a pretty efficient use of your time on the field right there.
So remember the good hands team, obviously, early in his career. It's a first down at the 38 of St. Louis.
That's
plenty of time. There, Brandon Cooks on the cross over the middle.
I tell you what, Joel, during camp, this kid catches everything. And now you've got him here in the second half with Cooks and Morgan together, arguably your 2 fastest guys on the team.
Well, let me tell you where it starts. It starts up front, great play fake, but look at the time he's got. Obviously, Cooks, 10-yard separation between safety and linebacker that dropped into space. So you give a quarterback that much time, you've got a playmaker like Brandon Cooks, they're going to find each other.
Griffin put it on the ground on first down. Brandon Cooks, though, good story. Mike Neighbors.
Joel, you know, Cooks isn't the biggest guy in the world. He was asked about his size in camp. You know, he said, little guys, we're special. We can do some things the bigger guys can't do. So he kind of takes pride in his size and being sneaky out there on offense. Back to you.
And, God, he's a sponge. Everything you hear is Sean Payton. Every day I go on Saints.com at the end of the day to watch the press conference. And we talked about it. He's talking to the older wide receivers. He's talking to the defensive backs. He is a student very early.
And Coach points out, he's still got a lot to learn. And we're very, very shortly into his stint here.
Cooks, how about that pivot? Brandon Cooks, he's in. First professional touchdown. I don't care if it's a preseason or not.
That is amazing cut out of the catch.
Pretty good breaks.
Wow.
He's a make-you-miss guy. He's sure-handed. They're going to put him in space as many times as possible, John.
Most time that the wide receiver makes the break outside, he's able to put on the brakes, plant, go inside. Wow, Ryan Griffin delivering under duress right there.
Quietly, it's been a pretty efficient game for Ryan Griffin, too.
I'd like the way he's moved in the pocket.
Yes.
I'd like the decisions he's made. He's gotten rid of the ball when he's needed to. I think he's played really well this game.
Dimke, extra point, dead, solid, perfect. And like the start of the second half for the Saints. So the Saints with 10 on the board already in the third. And Brandon Cooks going to be a very special player for Norm. Saints had their largest lead of the game, 26-17. And our Rouse's scoring drive, Brandon Cooks on the receiving end, a 25-yard throw. And what a stop and a pivot, though. To elude pressure. And it almost, and I mentioned to you, John Stinchcomb, it almost looked like it was developing a pick play before the catch.
That is blasphemous words, Joel. We don't even use that terminology up here, but it was a combination route between two wide receivers, obviously. But you see the wide out, he's going to press up. Cooks is going to plant, break out underneath that route, create space. Now we create space, sure. But the plant, what he does after the catch is most impressive. To get upfield, get in the end zone. That's the playmaking ability, Sean, that you've seen since the first day in camp.
I love the route by Nick Toon as well. He clears out that last defensive back to make the one-on-one situation for Cooks there, whereas we've seen in camp, he will excel. Natural
Instincts. Brandon Cooks has them. So Brandon Cooks puts him out 26-17. It'll be Dimke, who just converted on the point after. Getting into this one very efficiently. So Graham got the work early. Now I'm talking about Shane Graham. Now it's Derek Dimke. And don't forget, in the fourth quarter, we're going to be joined by the general manager of the Saints to discuss the situation, the prospects of the season with Mickey Loomis. Stay with us. Brandon Cooks lasted until 20th overall. And don't forget, the Saints made a deal to move up in the draft with good reason. And some of the plays of Cooks already tonight. He's not a large guy, but boy, what a tough customer, John.
Yeah, good things come in small packages sometimes, and Brandon Cooks is one of them. They saw something in film that they liked, and they went after him. They moved up in the draft to get the player that they wanted. It's nice when you make those decisions, and from an early standpoint, it looks like it's really going to pan out for him.
Tight end on the receiving end, Alex Bear, a rookie out of Bowling Green, Gilbert. So that's five touches. And that's the key. Get him in different positions because, as Sean Payton has said, just get him the ball in space. All he needs is a little space. We've seen that.
Targeted 8 times. I would venture to say, Joel, that the 3 times that he did not make a reception was uncatchable because the kid catches anything close to him.
Well, our Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers trivia question. The 2 former Saints to win AP Offensive Rookie of the Year awards.
Go ahead, Stinch.
I would have given one to Jyree Evans, but I would have been wrong.
And I'd have thought Reggie Bush in there, but we're both
Washington State Cougar Reuben Mays in 86. And George Rogers before that in 81. Good question. Matt Sharp come up with that? Or was it a Sharp question?
He stumped me. Not tough to do.
Why don't we ease into it? I mean, it's game 1.
It's second and short. Garrett Gilbert stays in there at quarterback. And a hot one. It had to be a hot one because they were coming off the edge and right through the hands of Chris Gibbons, the wide receiver 4th round pick a couple of years ago out of Wake.
How about the pressure applied by Kyle Knox on this play?
It's actually the right call. You got a corner blitz, 2 wide receivers out there with the safety coming down. You get a quick out, quick screen just between the 2 wide receivers. They just can't get together and bring it in.
We talked about the pleasant development of the defense. And right now, there's a lot of second and third teamers trying to make it, third teamers in particular. The Rams are trying to pick up their first down of the second half. Gilbert And too tall. Off the fingertips. Bear once again. And he was available. So a miscue by the quarterback, it looked like, John.
He brings that in, and they continue the drive. It's just way too out in front of him. Reaches up, couldn't bring it back in, but he's got enough space between him and the linebacker that he's going to make that first down and gain some more yardage.
Backup punter trying to win the job here because you're going after a Pro Bowler's job. Bobby Cowan out of Idaho, spent time with the Raiders, little time with the Raiders last year, but now they're going for it on fourth and a couple, and the Rams gadget works. Look out into the open field. Going to be a first down in Saints territory. Normally you don't see gadget plays in the preseason. He takes it down to the 35, and it was Chase Reynolds who pulled it off, the running back out of Montana.
They snap it to the up back.
It's 38 yards for the first down, so that is the biggest play so far in the second half, of the first down of the second half, on a fourth down for St. Louis.
And you can see why the Rams wanted to run a trick play. They were having zero momentum, so
right.
They're trying to stimulate the package, if you will, because on defense, the Saints are doing a great job of getting them to punt the ball.
Toss sweep from Mason. A little stutter step delay paid off. Looked like he was going to take it inside. Bounce back out for almost 6. So Mason getting the reps now. Their third-round pick out of Auburn. Sunseri again. The safety up out of the secondary to make the hit.
I like watching Sunseri. This is a kid who played linebacker in high school, strong safety at Alabama, so in the box a lot. And now, as a free safety for the New Orleans Saints, he sees defenses very well, and some of that has to do with the fact that his dad's a linebacker coach.
Coach's son. Makes sense. Mason again close to the first down. It was short by about a yard.
Yeah, Mason runs hard, too. We saw that in his college days.
Yes.
You see how that hasn't changed.
He looks the part, doesn't he?
Kyle Knox wrapped him up, barely short of the first down. Knox out of Fresno State.
Knox has got the attention of the coaches. He's made some plays. He's had a good camp from the reports I've heard and discussed with some of the coaches, and a guy that they're hoping can be on their two-deep chart and somebody that they'll look to make some plays in special teams also.
That was some serious leverage by Tyron Walker because the mo belonged to the running back, and he stopped Mason short. It looks like he's about a foot shy of the first down.
Rob Ryan said, the key for us, especially in the base set defense, we have to build a wall and then set the edge. And building this wall here forces the Rams into this fourth and short.
Spread the D with 3 wide receivers. Only Mason in the backfield. Need less than a yard. And they won't get it. Saints, great penetration. They were in the backfield almost as soon as Mason touched the football.
You had 4 players behind the line of scrimmage in the first second of this play.
Powell should get credit, but there was penetration by Walker too.
Well, it's a slant. Obviously, they're bringing Sunseri off the edge, so the whole D-line crashes down inside. As a running back, you got nowhere to go in that situation.
They tried to pull him out of the box with the formation, because they had 3 wideouts.
That's right.
Well, they'll be yelling, way to go, Clyde, on the sideline, because that's Tyron Walker's nickname, Clyde. That's only because his defensive line coach has trouble, pronouncing his name? Is this where this comes from?
He's creative. Okay. He's creative.
All right, guys, our first look at Logan Kilgore, rookie out of Middle Tennessee State at 6'3", 205. And get him some rhythm. And I'm talking about just hand it off first couple of snaps. There's a flag, probably a hold, or it was thrown.
He'll throw it at some point here, Joel, because, well, I'll tell you in a second.
Holding. Number 74 offense. 10-yard penalty. First down.
He was the first player in Middle Tennessee State history to go 3 straight seasons with over 2,000 yards passing. That's a nice Blue Raider number there for you.
He's a 24-year-old from Carmichael, California. And that'll be the last snap of a very productive third quarter for the Saints on both sides of the ball. So they shut them out. It's a 10-0 third for the Saints. And we get ready for the final 15 minutes under the dome in St. Louis, at least in regulation, in a 9-point lead. Preseason game number 1. And so far, so good for the Saints. On top of the Rams, 26-17. Stay with us in downtown St. Louis. On the first snap of the fourth, on 1st and 20, Cadet wrapped up very quickly on the play up the middle. And we're joined now by the general manager of the Saints through 3 quarters, Mickey Loomis, joins us upstairs in St. Louis. And Mickey, your assessment, first of all, so far.
Well, you know, as usual in the preseason, there's some good things and there's some things that weren't quite so good. You know, like the way we ran the ball. Number one, that was real good. Actually, both groups, every group that's been out there has ran the ball well.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Mickey, because in particular we were talking about the efficiency of Mark Ingram, in particular in the first half.
Yeah, both he and Kyrie ran well, and look, that's a credit to them, but it's also a credit to those guys that were blocking up front, and that's exciting when you know we don't have our first either of our starting guards. So that was good to see. We had some penalties though, so on the other side of the ledger, you know, too many penalties.
In the big picture, tell us about camp and the guys that have stood out as far as you're concerned. The younger guys. You already mentioned your 2 guards that aren't here that are Pro Bowlers in Evans and Grubbs, but some of the younger guys that stood out in your mind.
Well, you know, first and foremost, I think, and everybody's talking about Brandon Cooks, and he's done well. It's exciting to see how he is, learn the offense and learn, what he's supposed to do despite missing a large part of the offseason. So I guess we would start with him.
Yeah, a good start. And the pivot wasn't a bad one on the stop and the touchdown.
No, and look, that's part of his skill set is that
right.
Stop and start, change of direction, and getting to full speed quickly, just like John.
That's. I think he learned it from me. Really. I'll take all the credit.
Greg Reed waits for the punt. And there have not been many for the Saints in this game, and there's a beauty by Morstead as Reed finds a block and a lane over the left side. But a special teams play made after the return of about 15 yards. It was Ronald Powell, the young man we were talking about earlier. And we're going to come back and talk to Mickey Loomis about not only Cooks, but some of the guys like Powell and other guys that are trying to make this team as backups and especially special teams players. Stay with us, Saints. A little more than 2 minutes gone by in the fourth. Saints by 9 as the Rams get it back. Our Slidell Memorial Hospital numbers through 3. And a real efficient game for the Saints, despite the 1 turnover. And then we talked about the penalties at the end of the first half and that one drive where the Rams got the field goal. But overall, good balance, as you saw the breakdown to the 351 yards. And now the Rams get as we continue our conversation with Mickey Loomis as they've got it 1st and 10. And a nice cut and a little counteraction by Trey Mason, but there is a flag down on the play. Mickey, you talked about the guards not being there, so the interior line plays, we look at the running of Ingram and Kyrie Robinson. It's encouraging that the backups are doing that well.
Yeah, when you have 100 yards rushing in the first half, then clearly, you're getting some good line play. I thought, our tight ends blocked well, too, for the most part in that first half.
Greenbrier. Everybody's been talking about it because, and you brought it up, there's not been a lot of tackling to begin with in camp, but the wear and tear on your body when you're playing in those conditions and preparing for a season, it's got to be an advantage.
Well, one of the things we wanted to do is get to some cooler weather for this training camp, and part of that has to do with the number of practices that you have available in training camp. 10, 12 years ago, you might have 50 or 60 training camp practices, and now we're down to roughly 30. With the way the CBA rules are, and so you've got to take advantage of every single minute. And so that last hour of a practice in Jackson is our players are just trying to get through it, and they're not really that focused on their assignment and learning to play.
Well, John Stinchcomb is still bitter about the fact that he is not at the Greenbrier and is still on the squad that he was in Jackson.
Well, I'm grateful that he wasn't up there because the few guys that we have left that were in Jackson have all said, wow, this is not training camp in their eyes.
They continue to rub it in, by the way.
Yeah.
They like to send pictures of their turn-down service and their mitts on their pillow.
Fourth quarter brought to you by Home Builders Self-Insurers Fund. There's Mickey Loomis, general manager of the Saints, with us. And another quarterback in there for the Rams with a pass interference call coming out. It was Austin Davis out of Southern Miss. Some of the battles, and it's got to be difficult, and we talked about it by position. How many you keep, Mickey, whether it's going to be 3 or 4 running backs, 5 or 6 wide receivers.
Pass interference.
As
Number 44
it comes down to preseason game, because you go 90-75 and then 75-53 after game 3 to game 4, that's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, and look, we go into this with an idea of how many spots we want at each position, and yet what will happen is somebody will stand out and we'll end up keeping an extra running back or an extra guy at another position, and oftentimes it's because of their play in special teams.
It's a pass interference call. And good penetration once again. That was George Uko, the rookie out of USC, and you can't miss him. A large, very large red zone, so it is once again a slap your mama Cajun seasoning red zone opportunity, this time for the St. Louis Rams. Ryan Griffin, the backup quarterbacks, great reps for them in the opening preseason game.
Yeah, this is a real good experience for Ryan and obviously for Luke as well. And I thought, in the first half of that, both of them operated the offense pretty well. We had the one interception, but that was, that was a really great play by Chris Long, and much more so than a bad play by Luke. And then Ryan had a real nice game as well.
Yeah, managing and kind of orchestrating and commanding the presence in the pocket and continuing those plays.
Yeah, getting us in and out of the huddle, getting the play calls. That's part of the difficulty when you have so many players is that you're not getting a lot of reps oftentimes. And so just getting in and out of the huddle, getting the play called without a penalty, that's the kind of thing you're looking for your quarterback to do.
Helps to have that 1 year of comfort being in the system, and you can see the confidence from last preseason to this for Ryan. It's made a world of difference.
Yeah, it has made a difference. And look, he had the advantage of being in the same system at Tulane that we use, and so he came in with a bit of an advantage.
Davis on third down, and a touchdown for the Rams. Going to Austin Franklin with a rookie out of New Mexico. Some more time for the quarterback that time, and he capitalized.
Hands of the number 56 defense. That penalty's declined. Result of the play, touchdown.
So the backup quarterback, Austin Davis, engineers that drive for St. Louis. Austin Franklin on the receiving end.
Mickey, as we look at this roster each year, there seems to be so many undrafted guys or guys from smaller schools. How does that? It doesn't just happen. There's so many personnel members that go into making these decisions. Why is it that y'all are so successful? It's you got a roster full of guys coming from so many different places.
Yeah, well, look, I think everyone can take a little bit of responsibility for that. Starting with our college scouting staff, who they take a lot of pride in finding guys that no one's heard about, or small college, or maybe they haven't got the right opportunity in college, and finding a trait that each one has that transfers to the NFL. And then, look, it's a great credit to our coaching staff who are willing to look at players and not worry about how we acquired them, but just by going by what they see and what their potential is to fit into our scheme, either offensively or defensively. And so we've had a lot of success with undrafted free agents, and I think that's going to continue.
And we look at Rob Ryan. And were you even surprised to a certain extent by the improvement of the defensive unit going from 32nd to 4th?
Yeah, I think I was surprised that we climbed that high. Look, I knew we were better than we were in 2012. There was a lot of variables that existed for that season, but to go all the way to 4th was quite an accomplishment, and a credit to the players and our coaching staff.
We'll come right back, continue our conversation with General Manager Mickey Loomis. 2-point game, 4 minutes gone by in the 4th. 2-point lead for the Saints as we look at the upcoming schedule, all brought to you by Cox. And don't forget, we've got next week's preseason game, fortunately at the Dome, at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome at home. Also, we'll have it here on Cox Sports Television against the Ravens at home on the 28th. It starts with the Falcons, the Browns, 2 on the road. In fact, Mickey, 3 out of the first 4 on the road this year. That's tough.
Well, look, we're going to have 8 at home and 8 away, and how they fall is just a function of the schedule. We've been a good road team, contrary to some things that I've seen. We've been a real good road team since Sean Payton's been here. So, we don't fear going on the road and playing. We'll just have to see what happens, but we're looking forward to the beginning of the regular season.
Flag on the Strozier. Derek Strozier, the backup running back, making the most out of what looked like it was going to be stopped at about the 10, 15-yard line. Penalty will go half the distance. While we were away, I asked you about Drew Brees. He's not playing tonight. He's 35 years old. You can make a case that he's the best quarterback, the most resourceful quarterback in the NFL now. Do you look at it like this window of opportunity with Drew Brees the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, not really, because look, short-range planning in the NFL is next week, and long-range at the outside end is 3 years. So, Drew said he's going to play for 10 years, which I'm all in favor of. So I really don't look at it like that. Look, we've had a lot of success since Drew's been here, and that's going to continue. And we'll have a plan when Drew finally does hang it up. We'll have a plan for that as well.
It's amazing what he's accomplished with his 3 consecutive 5,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, it really is. Look, he's I don't know that there's enough good things you can say about Drew, but his leadership in our locker room and in our city is as important as his play on the field.
Yeah, well put, because he is totally involved.
Yeah, he is. And look, he's one of those guys that bleeds black and gold too.
8 years later. This is hard to believe. 8 seasons for Drew Brees. 8 incredible years. The carry across the 10 out to about the 14. And it's Derek Strozier. Well, we talked about Drew Brees and what he's accomplished. You're looking at a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's thrown for better than 51,000 yards in his career.
That's a lot.
And it's like, I almost equate it to a classic point guard, though, who makes everybody around him, the basketball point guard, everybody around him looks better.
Yeah, he does. And look, he's got a great talent to spread the ball around. And obviously, he's got the advantage of having a great offensive coordinator, head coach, in Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael.
So on 3rd about 5. On the deflection, look at Strozier again. And he's got the first down. He steps out of bounds. No, he doesn't. They say he was out. Challenge it. I want a challenge flag on that right now. He's short by about a yard. And it'll bring up a punting situation for the Saints. Jimmy Graham. Everything's worked out for the best for the Saints and Jimmy.
Yeah, it did. And look, that was a tough process, and it was a little complicated because of, some language in the CBA. But look, we got through it, and I know he's happy, and we're happy as well.
Well, Mickey, we appreciate you taking your time and coming down to join us. We're looking forward to this season. Can't wait for the season, actually. Beltung waits back for the punt. A fair catch, and the Rams will get it back at their own 28. The key, keep them healthy.
That's right. Keep them healthy. John, good to be with you guys. Joel, thank you.
Appreciate it. That's Mickey Loomis, General Manager.
Everything you need to know about your New Orleans Pelicans is right in the palm of your hand. The New Orleans Pelicans app is easy to use, plus makes an excellent companion whether you're watching the team in the Smoothie King Center or on the road. Recently added features on the app include the latest videos and highlights, plus a list of arena amenities. Download the Pelicans app for free now on your iPhone or Android device. For more information, check out Pelicans.com today.
And our Window World headlines, well, the governor of New York trying to ensure that the Bills stay in Buffalo. Michael Vick leading the Jets to win over the Colts. Geno Smith, do you hear me? We'll get back to that in just a moment. And it's a holding call coming up. Ben on the gate. No play to begin with, but it was a drop by the tight end, Junior Cunningham.
Holding. Number 62 offense. 10-yard penalty. First down.
And back to that final headline. And it sounds like the interested parties in Mike Tannenbaum, agent now for a number of guys, is a consultant for the Dolphins. So let's see. He's a former Jets GM. You might remember Mike Tannenbaum. And let's see what that does to. I just saw him in Vegas in NBA Summer League. He's got some NBA people that he's representing, front office people. So it'll be a first down. Mark off of 10. 19 penalties combined between the two teams. Saints about gained by 100 yards in total offense. A lot of time. Only a 4-man rush that time.
You got to credit the secondary on these last two plays. Quarterback really hadn't had anywhere to go with the ball. Caused a holding penalty on the previous play. On this one, he has to settle for the check down for a 1-yard gain.
Sweeting on the coverage that time for only a 1-yard gain. But you're right. Not many options, and he had to dump it off. His last option.
That's a big win.
Second and long. Final 9 minutes of the preseason opener. You look around this building, you don't see many people here. We're sold out to start the game. Austin Davis again. Man, that's a bullet. That was a strong throw. He's got the tight end who hangs on. That is complete to Alex Baer. We have time for our Ask Everybody, because we've got a bunch of guys ready to field your questions on Twitter tonight. And our Ask the Announcer, John Stinchcomb, how much weight would a lineman cut during training camps? Good question. And that's from Calypso Cool. Jackson and Metairie wasn't so cool in Jackson.
Calypso, let me be honest with you. There were guys that would lose 13, 14 pounds in a practice. You're just trying to replace the fluids knowing how much of that weight's pure water weight. So to hear the reports out of the Greenbrier down to about 2 or 3 pounds at the most, it's a far cry from the conditions that we had in Metairie and also in Jackson. So it's going to really factor in for some of the big guys in probably a good way, that you're going to have to lose real weight in the right ways, and that's to do with diet and all the good stuff people say.
Personal foul, number 62, offense for a late hit. The play resulted in a first down. It'll be 1st and 10 after the 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, it's R.J. Dill who comes in late. It's a dead ball foul, though. They've already got the first down. Now watch the load.
Well, that's not even close. That's just kind of being a bully, big guys. It's interesting. We talked about the differences in the camps, and Joel, this is no joke. The line for the IVs after practice in Jackson and Metairie used to be almost out the door. Now, very few IV bags used there at the Greenbrier.
And cool conditions, even cooler than normal. Good pressure. That was the linebacker who came for the Saints. And that was Rufus Johnson out of Tarleton State. Busted up the play.
You got two coming off the edge at the top of your screen. Has to unload the ball early. The receiver hasn't even turned his head. It ends up at his feet. Great job of forcing the play before it could materialize.
He was on the practice squad last year, Rufus.
Yes, and when you look at there used to be a line. You'd have to wait to get poked to get to IV bags, just because there's so many guys cramping up after practice that it is a major difference training in West Virginia and the atmosphere and climate that they're enjoying for training camp this year compared to the I'm going to say less than desirable conditions we had in Jackson. Not because Millsaps wasn't a great college, but because Jackson, Mississippi is it's one of the hottest, steamiest places on earth, in my opinion.
No doubt. And there will be an adjustment a week from Sunday when the Saints return to Metairie and start practicing again in that heat after preseason game number 2.
Well, you go through a series of 12 plays in ideal mid-70s conditions, and then you go back for that same series of plays, and you'll make it to play 4 or 5 before you feel the effects.
Good grab by Emory Blake out of Auburn. He was on the Rams practice squad last year. Good recognition. Turned on the back shoulder.
Tough cover here for Trevin Wade, a guy that's played pretty well tonight, both defensively and on special teams. Gets lost here at the end of the route. That ball's thrown just right. Hey, my guy's going to catch it or nobody else. That's what that quarterback has to do in that situation.
So the Rams trying to take the lead in the final 7 minutes of regulation. They've got a first down to the Saints, 36. Chase Reynolds worked on the gadget play and picked up 38 yards on a fake punt. Young man trying to make the team out of Montana.
I'm sorry. I stepped all over you. Hey, you were talking about the Saints fans in the third quarter and how nice it would be to get back to them. I wanted to share a story with you. Lifelong Saints fans, Gary and Dina Nunez, their family lost their home to a fire caused by lightning on Wednesday night. There was one item consistently in each room that survived the fire. It was a Saints item in each room that survived the fire. Now, albeit small, a very meaningful piece of a tragedy for that family. I hope that fellow Saints fans will lift up the Nunez's, and I can't wait to see them and all the Saints fans when we get home finally next week.
It'll be the opposite of what we're experiencing right now in the 65,000-seat dome.
No doubt. No doubt.
And our thoughts are with that family as well, Sean. And it's almost like divine intervention, as you mentioned.
In a way, when they told me the story, I didn't know what was going to be said. The story was set up as, hey, there was one thing that survived in each of the rooms in the house. And I thought something, a family heirloom or something. They said a Saints item, and it just hit me, boom, right in the chest.
Well, there's not a more passionate, loyal fan base than what you get from the New Orleans Saints. Following the Super Bowl, the number one comment from a fan that you'd run into, gas station, restaurant, it wasn't congratulations on your win, it was thank you. There's ownership, there's a tight bond, especially following Katrina, and what was a strong bond was only made so much stronger following such a huge tragedy. But there's nothing like the fan base that the Saints enjoy.
When the Saints fly home from Greenbrier on Thursday, I guarantee you, Joel, there will be a crowd of people at the airport to welcome them home.
Up.
And then we'll see everybody finally on Friday night against the Titans.
Well, there's nothing like it in professional football. I've never seen anything like it.
Timeout, St. Louis.
Rams used their first time out of the second half, trying to take the lead with Zerline, and a field goal try coming up. But it will be welcome to get back to the Dome next week. Saints coverage on CST, don't forget, continues weekly throughout the regular season with Saints Tonight on game days. Outside the Huddle is going to be every Thursday. And don't forget the Sean Payton press conference the day after each game. That's all right here. Only on Cox Sports Television, your regional sports network. You're home for the Saints. So go to CoxSportsTV.com for the dates and the time. By his standards, Zerline, this is not a long field goal. It's a 46-yard attempt. And for the lead, and he hooks it. It's an absolute, had to happen. Now, wasn't touched at the line because that was a wicked duck hook.
It wasn't a pretty kick. There was a lot of penetration, though, from the defensive line coming from the New Orleans Saints.
So Zerline, no. Looked like me on the first tee. 5 minutes to play and a 2-point lead. First half, it was a really impressive performance. Our Slidell Memorial Hospital player of the game, Stinch, Mark Ingram, stood out.
He did. That's what you want from preseason game number 1, is a continuation from last season for Mark Ingram. He showed that he's patient in the hole. He's going to hit it with speed. He's elusive, and he's got that power that you're looking for to break tackles and make touchdowns.
It'll be Kilgore on the handoff. Let's check in one more time with John DeShazer. John?
Thanks, Joel. Now, what you see from Mark is when he gets his shoulders squared, he can be pretty formidable. He's a guy who runs downhill. You know, his teammates liken him to a freight train when he gets moving forward. However, his problem is, in the passing game and in the blitz pickup, if he can pick up those nuances, and those are the things he said he has worked on during this training camp, it makes him and the Saints offense more versatile because he's not one-dimensional. Now when he goes on the field, you don't know whether he's going to run or be a receiver. However, if he can't do those things, you can plan for what he does when he's on the field, so they want to make him more versatile.
All right, J.D. Well, it got away from Brandon Coleman, the big wide receiver, the rookie out of Rutgers. They had a pick for the Rams in the hands of Johnny Millard. Keith Millard. Remember Keith Millard from the Vikings? His son.
I thought for a second he took his eye off the football, heard footsteps or something, but it's clear his face mask is right at the ball. this just clearly goes through his hands. When he arrived at the Greenbrier to start camp, I looked at Brandon Coleman. I said, look at this. The size, he looks the part. And he started off with a couple of nice days in camp. It's been a bit of a struggle. And again, he's in that crowded situation at wide receiver. We talked about at the top of the show. If you take Colston, Meacham, Kenny Stills, who's been sidelined with a quadricep injury, and then throw Cooks in there, who's had a great night tonight. If you only carry, Joel, 5 wide receivers, maybe 6, now you're talking about 6 or so guys battling for one of those 2 spots. Coleman's in that fight. This is unfortunate for him that he finally gets a crack and a touch tonight and he can't pull it in.
Yeah, and they're going to look at this and review this play on the change of possession. And you brought it up, and that's why. And I talked to Mickey about it. Do you keep 5? Do you keep 6? And he goes, we always have these predetermined numbers in our head, but. And the play over once again that they're reviewing. Colston, Stills, Cooks, and then, as you said, Meacham. How about Morgan and Toon? There's 6 right there. So who's going? And you think they're going to keep 6 because who's going to be left out of that group?
Well, and whoever is the 6th man in that wide receiver group, Stinch, has got to contribute on special teams. He'll have to have a dual role. I mean, he just can't make the team as a wide receiver. He's going to have to make it on that other bus that Sean Payton always talks about.
Does the ball come loose here, guys?
It's definitely hitting the ground from what I see.
But does he keep his hand under it?
I'll say this about all the wide receivers. I think they're good enough to make rosters across this league. So you're talking about a group of who knows what that number is, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers on the Saints roster when they roll into town in Atlanta in first week in September. And then I think the rest of these guys have to keep in mind that 31 other teams are going to watch this game and evaluate your tape. So you're auditioning as we speak.
Well, as we talked about at the top of the broadcast, and here's again the list of the group, and Kenny Stills has been sidelined, but we know what he did in his rookie season. Don't forget you have practice squad opportunity here too. Does somebody show you, Joel, in camp that you want to make sure that he doesn't end up somewhere else?
Right.
So does a Brandon Coleman or Shontavius Jones, who is getting a lot of heads turned in his direction during camp, whether he makes the team as a special teams player or do you find up the spot of that
The ruling on the field
squad?
stands. Interception. First down, St. Louis.
Yeah, it was inconclusive whether it really did come loose. So Keith Millard's son, he's got a pick on a deflection on a ball that, as you said, it should have been a reception. That's tough for Logan Kilgore, the quarterback, on a bullet to Coleman. And now the Rams with a second chance with 4:16 to play. After the missed field goal, the 46 yards by Zerla. And they've got it to their own 49.
Hey, look, the good news for Brandon Coleman is this. There's more preseason games to come and a lot more reps of practice.
And on single coverage, it's well behind and underthrown as they were looking downfield for Emory Blake. So Austin Davis out there who threw the touchdown pass to Austin Franklin to make it a 2-point game.
The Southern Miss Golden Eagle. What do you think about the Packers? Speaking of Southern Miss, Packers retiring Brett Favre's number there in 2015, guys. You think it's a
not
easy
shocked.
Slam dunk on that?
Yeah. Not shocked. And he said he's a Packer for life, even though he went to the dreaded Vikings of all teams. Davis now 6 for 9. Man on the deep drop. Good pressure again. Off the edge. Boy, the linebackers have been getting there, haven't they? That was Kyle Knox again, the second-year man. Or was it Ronald Powell?
I think it's Ronald Powell.
Yeah, Ronald Powell, actually, that got there. A guy who's had a good camp.
Yep, he just works speed around the edge. That's relentless effort to find his way to the quarterback. Nothing really special about the rush, but doesn't give up on it and finds his way to the quarterback.
Hey, that's something you pick up in those pass pro drills that they've been working on here over the last week. That's taking stuff from the practice field to the game field.
5th round pick out of Florida gets the sack, so now it's going to be 3rd and about 15 back at the 44. Pocket holds up better. Yeah, acrobatic play. It's a drop, though. It would have been a spectacular catch on the comeback. But once again, Emory Blake. And by the way, as we talk about a rookie 5th round pick out of Florida, how many guys come out of the SEC and don't know how to play? I mean, If you're out of the SEC, we talk about Auburn guys. If they're taken to the 6th, 7th round, usually they have a pretty good shot of making it because they're in the best conference in the country anyway. They've been tested severely to begin with.
You've seen some high competition when
Right.
you play in the SEC, no question.
Well, that's why, we were talking about Michael Sam earlier. Here he is, the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Year, and he ends up being drafted in the 7th round. That to me was surprising.
Tweeting way back deep. He'll stay away from it. And it's grabbed inside the 10. So the Saints will get it back with 3:11 to play. Let's see if they can get a couple of first downs and run out the clock. Stay up to date on the latest news with the Saints by downloading the team's official app. It's all presented by Verizon. You can check out the new schedule. We've just talked about that. 3 of the first 4 on the road. League standings, stats. Plus, you'll have access to watch live press conferences. Coach Sean Payton and players are reliving your favorite Saints moments. Saints app makes perfect game day companions for all of you with a detailed map of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. We'll highlight the facility's merchandise, the concession stands. You need some money? ATMs included. The free New Orleans Saints app. It's all presented by Verizon, available on iTunes and also on Google Play. From the 7th, Kilgore. Good pocket protection. And a good time to throw it away.
There was a game at Middle Tennessee State that Kilgore attempted 62 passes. I'd love to see him here late in the game, deep clock situation. Maybe have a little fun here. Let's air it out and see what this young man can do.
I'll tell you something. I did a Drew Brees game at Wisconsin. Purdue at Wisconsin. He threw, it was an NCAA record at the time, and I think it was 83.
Oh, goodness.
And they lost, and they had a chance at the end of the game. I think it was Halloween night in Wisconsin. Did that game with Todd Christensen a long time ago. A wild game. But guys like that, rubber arms, they never get sore, do they?
No.
Out of the backfield. Little dump off doesn't do much, does it? Taken in by Austin Johnson. Young man from Tennessee who was on the practice squad last year. Well, this copyrighted telecast of Saints football may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the New Orleans Saints and Cox Sports Television. Well, we've got 2:56 to play. And I wanted to talk about Ryan Griffin, and we talked about Mark Ingram a little bit and some of the other guys. Ryan Griffin tonight, 16 of 23, 179 yards, a TD pass. Cooks, and I like the hookup because he looked for hooks a lot tonight. But he was just quietly efficient, wasn't he? Not flashy, took what they gave him.
I thought he did a great job of taking what was given to him, managing the pocket when it started to collapse. He moved well. He played with a lot of confidence, and I think did a great job and took a step forward from this game.
Flanders in the backfield, along with Logan Kilgore on a 3rd and 10 and a delay of game. Usually when it comes from the back judge, it's a clock.
Let's use the headsets here, guys. Would you have to go all the way down there and talk face to face?
They got crossed.
You want them to,
it's
don't
now
you?
a party
Set the
line.
game clock at 25 seconds.
So it won't be a delay game. The flag came out, but
We had the conversation about these young wide receivers trying to show us something. We got 3 of them in there together now, with Hawkins now is checked in on the lower portion of your screen. Coleman above him and Shontavious Jones at the top of your screen.
Kilgore, and he's got some space. He'll go instead to Flanders, and he's right at the marker. I think he's short by a little bit. But a good effort by both Kilgore, who realized, I don't think I can run for 10. Let's see if Flanders can get it.
Good decision.
Good route, too. I think he finds the right piece of real estate there to give Kilgore a chance to dump that off and have a chance at that marker.
Game clock, 2-4-3, please.
Short of the first down by a couple of feet.
Here's what I was referring to as he comes out of the backfield here. Hey, I'm just going to camp out right here. Nice piece of real estate. I know where that marker is, and I got a real good shot at it if I get just over the 16-yard line there.
That's the exact purpose of that route. He's checking for protection, doesn't see a threat, then he's a release valve. If the quarterback doesn't have any options down the field, he can dump it off right there, get what you can. Now they're within 1 yard of a first down.
And he got a bad spot. You know, we just saw on the replay that he landed on the 18 when he went down. The ball landed on the 18 as he went head first.
You ready to throw the red flag from up here?
I challenge all day.
Okay.
Why not? It's the preseason.
That's it.
Don't have to save it in the preseason. So it's going to be a punt. Morstead's in. Beltung is back deep, the reserve wide receiver at about the 30 for St. Louis. Rams not jumping. They were waiting with a long count. Got good hang time by Morstead. Beltung makes him miss. Good job. So he got about 10, but it didn't look like he was going to get a thing.
No.
Good
Great
feed.
kick, and there's a couple flags in the play, unfortunately. You know, Morstead is a new daddy. He's really enjoyed his camp.
The baby legs.
Yes.
You saw the pictures.
Holding number 49 of the return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
So we were talking about McCown, who started, and also Ryan Griffin.
McCown finding some of the usual suspects. Benjamin Watson, Marcus Colston. He found Jimmy Graham a few. Here's Griffin. Hill had a couple plays today.
Yeah, Josh Hill had a couple of big plays.
And then, of course, the Brandon Cooks touchdown.
And if you go back to the start of that play, Griffin takes a lick before he lets that ball go. He had the presence of mind. I just wait just another half a second here. I can get it to my guy and give him a chance to score the football.
Got buried. Absolutely buried on that play. It's at the 21. A long field, but don't forget it's only a 2-point lead. So field goal will do it for St. Louis. It's Chase Reynolds again. Yeah. Knifing through, and a good short tackle down low. Rufus Johnson Jr. He should show up on film pretty well. His dad played at Texas Tech, so he grew up in football.
Have you been to Lubbock, Texas there, John Stinchcomb?
Nope, that's not what I've made.
AKA the face of the moon.
Buddy Hollyville. I've been there many times. Got to go to Kegels in Lubbock for a porterhouse if you're there.
And I have to contact
5-yard penalty.
I like Lubbock.
Second down.
former teammate Cliff Kingsbury, see if we can get over there.
You know, he was like Gumby. He was like claymation. The way he maneuvered, the way he got hit, and just got back up, and it was.
This is the 2-minute warning.
We have reached the 2-minute warning. They mark it off back to the 16, and we'll come right back with the final 2 minutes of regulation. Can Rob Ryan's defense hold on in a 2-point lead for the Saints? 2-point lead, 2 minutes to play. St. Louis deep in their own territory, though, and it's time now for our banner play of the game. Make it a banner day. How about Brandon Cooks in his debut as a pro?
Well, the specialness that we saw from him during training camp during these last 2.5 weeks at the Greenbrier has translated here to the playing field. This is an exciting player that I think that fans all across Houdat Nation are going to fall in love with if they haven't already.
I just wish somebody would tell Mark Ingram he was on the screen so he wouldn't make such a face. He doesn't know we're talking good about him.
Let's head downstairs to Mike Neighbors. Mike.
Hey, Joel, when talking about Brandon Cooks, you know, one thing we've learned, this guy has done quite a bit with first impressions. He's had a great camp so far. I know it's early, and tonight the expectations were there because of the first 2 weeks, and he did disappoint with his first touchdown. You know, he told us this week at the Greenbrier the difference between the college ranks and the pros. The pace is a little bit better in the NFL, but the big difference when he steps out in the football field, every player is a lot smarter from Oregon State to the Saints. And Brandon Cooks, if you talk to his teammates, they think he's smarter. The smarter he's going to get, the more dangerous he's going to get. Back to you.
All right, Mike, thank you. A young man that helped Bowling Green to the MAC title game has shown up big in his professional debut, and that is Alex Baer on a beautiful throw down the seam by Austin Davis.
There was a lot of separation on that route.
Big gap. So all of a sudden, not far from field goal territory.
Well, you look, the linebackers had dropped, but there's still way too much space between where they're at and where the safeties had split. So somebody's not right there.
Yeah.
First down at the Saints 42.
Great get off.
Yep. Pushed him up into the pocket, didn't he? Made him get rid of it a little quickly, and it's complete Keeping in bounds, taken in by T.J. Moe, former Missouri Tiger. Guy that wasn't drafted, trying to make it 2 years removed from Mizzou, where he caught a ton of passes. Brought down by Brooks. So the Saints trying to hang on. We remind you to get connected with CST Online. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and CoxSportsTV.com for the latest sports news and info. You'll have exclusive videos there from CST reporters, a lot more. Don't forget to check out the programming schedule as well, which includes CST exclusives like Saints Tonight, CST Tonight, and LSU Game Day Live. Log on. Minute 49 left. And Austin Davis, third quarterback employed, and we're going to get a false start and also delay.
Offense. 5-yard penalty, second down.
St. Louis is out of timeouts. So first, the linesman called false start off the edge. They were out of time anyway. The back judge was throwing double jeopardy.
Going wrong in that one.
Double jeopardy. But Davis has been efficient. He was their backup when Bradford went down. Kevin Clemens started last year, and he was the backup for Clemens, coming back on it, an alert play, but again, staying in bounds. It's the key, Emery Blake. Let's check in once again with John DeShazer. JD.
Thanks, Joel. Now, Coach Payton won't be pleased with the errors, especially the penalties, the mental errors. He won't like that, but certainly one of the points of emphasis this team wanted was to improve on the running game. They certainly seem to have gotten a good leg up on that tonight.
I would say on both sides of the ball, not just offensively, but defensively. They've done a really good job of shutting down the run from the St. Louis Rams.
That was something that they talked about at the opening press conference of training camp. He laid out a few key points of emphasis, and that was right at the top of the list.
Yeah, they were great against the pass last year. They were 18th against the run last year out of the 32 teams in the league. Reynolds going nowhere. They're already in field goal range most of the time for Zerline. Right now it would be as the Saints will stop the clock, and it's the final timeout as well for the Saints as Reddick was in on the stop. So a 48-yard field goal, unless the Rams come up with more, and they've got 54 seconds and a couple of snaps left. Well, Mike Neighbors follows the Saints through the end of the training camp this season. He'll bring you daily minutes and reports that you can't get anywhere else. So stay tuned to Cox Sports Television and visit CoxSportsTV.com to stay up to date on the black and gold. CST is your regional sports network home for your New Orleans Saints. Mike, I know you're a busy man. You'll be there at camp.
That's right. We give the minutes every day, the reports, and I think John Stinchcomb should check this out. Our weekly segment with Zach Streif called Word on the Streif. It's a YouTube sensation, highly entertaining. Back to you guys.
I like it.
Of course he is. Boy, he loves to be heard, that guy. It's not good enough that he's a good player. We get it. But now, he just loves to have a camera in his face, doesn't he?
He learned from the best, didn't he?
I don't appreciate the shot across the bow, Sean.
Sorry.
I did try to teach him everything I know. But, you know what he did? Just pushed me right out of the league. How about that for a guy?
Hey,
you teach him everything you know.
Watch your back here. Well, I tell you what, when he retires, we'll have like an 8-man booth.
There's not enough room for him to be up here. I tried to lose weight to be up here with you guys. He's going to be 450 pounds.
It'll stop the clock on the spike. 11 seconds left. And here comes Zerline trying to give the Rams the lead. He just got hooked to 46-yarder.
Things can get a little chippy in that second week of camp. And Zach last week started to tangle with a few guys. And I texted our boy John Stinchcomb here. I said, hey, your guy Streif's holding the zone out here. About an hour later, I got a text back from Stitch. Attaboy.
I love it. Sometimes you get hot and frustrated, tired of pushing on the same guy. You got to mix it up a little bit.
I mean, if they don't leave a mint on your pillow at night, I could see where you'd be a little cranky coming back to practice the next day. Joe
Vitt did say that they're having a shortage of cucumbers from the spa hours that they spend over their eyes, and then it's a good source of some sodium, water. It's good.
Snap, and then spike the ball. By rule, that's intentional grounding.
And now the clock is going to be running. As the official, he did lose it. He fumbled the ball away, and then he spiked it inside the pocket. So it's intentional grounding.
Wow.
And now Zerline, who hit all those 50-yarders, he had 7 from better than 50 yards his rookie season 2 years ago, is going to try a 59-yard attempt for the lead. And they still have a second left on the clock.
I think Fisher was
So they have the
calling for
10-second
some
runoff.
extra.
And now, will they get it off in time? It's on its way, and
Wow.
do you believe it? It's no good. It had the distance. It did not have the direction.
Feels like we just had a 10-car pileup on Interstate